The hell is the organized chaos guy, and why has he hate boner for you? I don't know. I don't fucking know. Steve Rogers is indeed Captain America, and Miles Morales is Miles Morales. This statement does not say that Sam Wilson isn't a Captain America. It doesn't say John Walker isn't a Captain America, or Isaiah Bradley, who was retconned as the first Captain America, isn't a Captain America. It doesn't say that Bucky Barnes isn't a Captain America. It just says Steve Rogers is Captain America. And the same goes with Miles Morales. He is indeed, again, Miles Morales. He's also a Spider-Man.
I mean, it's him admitting what he's already admitted, but like much more boldly than he has before.
Wow.
This month, I've made $1,000 on Twitter. $1,000. And I know there's people out there stealing content like Ian Miles Chong, making a lot more, but I'm making $1,000 off of Miles Morales tweets. Shit I would do for free. That, for one, is America. That is capitalism. And it's fucking hilarious. And you can do it too. You can do it too. You can do Miles Morales tweets because they're like engagement gold. They're engagement crack. I used to sell toxic poison to kids to feed my habit and make money, and I went to jail. Now I sell toxic poison to kids to feed my habit and make money on YouTube.
Holy fucking shit, dude.
And you can make a couple bucks. Hey, you can make, $15. That buys you a lunch somewhere. Not at McDonald's, not in California, but somewhere.
How do you do, fellow kids?
No, it is noteworthy how he refers to it as like dealing drugs.
Their engagement crack.
But yeah, no, I mean, it's what we've always known, just him boldly admitting it. And yeah, at this point, it's just constantly getting the message out that, he's doing it for the fucking engagement. Just the most I want people to do is screenshot it and say, don't reply directly to him. Do not.
Well, I mean, I guess at least now we have that we can literally just make a clip where we're just like, hey.
These guys exist in a space where their entire foundation is based on hating something the minute we get news or information about it. That means there's no reality where they won't continue to astroturf and be mad about stuff because it is their business model. Their pay pigs / fans want to pay them and be supportive of them for them to get on camera and scream and get upset about the thing. They want them to say the thing. They want them to be angry. This is their existence. They don't actually want Disney or Marvel or Lucas or any of these companies to change what they're doing because it would destroy their business model, and there is no financial incentive for them to be happy or excited about any of this stuff. They're all liars and grifters. They just want their pay pigs to put money in their bank accounts. That's their grift.
Okay, because, I really dislike the fake geek thing and the poser nerd thing. That's not what we're about. We're about inclusiveness, and we want new people in. And if new people, spout off and make mistakes, hey, don't we all? Well, yeah, it's a very exciting time for Dennis. Home ownership is wonderful. It's the process is probably like, I don't know. No, I don't want to equate it to giving birth. That's disrespectful though. It's like a bad movement. We'll just say it really is like a 45-day, especially that escrow. It's bad. Next subject. This is one near and dear to my heart. I am very happy about this, and I'd like to make some very early predictions. So Lord of the Rings, we've talked about last podcast, is going into production at Amazon, and they have agreed to multiple seasons, which is good. They're going to do a true adaptation. I was talking about this with John too. Just wait. Harry Potter's next. I don't know if it'll be at Amazon, but Harry Potter's next. I'll be very excited to see that too, where you get a true adaptation and you get multiple seasons. Because Lord of the Rings is deep. It is so deep. I know Dennis isn't a fan of the movies. They're probably my favorite trilogy. They are my favorite movies. I watch them again. I love the hell out of them, and they skim the surface of that book. So, yeah, I'm super excited that Amazon's going to put the money behind this. But but I'm going to call this right now on the podcast. Legolas will be a girl. I'm joking, but I'm not. And okay. And again, I don't have a problem with this. I'm just going to want to be the one to call it first. Okay. So Legolas will be a girl. and Boromir will be gay. I was going to say it was Gimli will be gay, but it's going to be Boromir. Boromir will
I
be
think
gay.
it's gonna be Samwise.
Samwise. No, I was thinking they would make
Is it two on
Frodo
the
a girl
nose?
too. I think Frodo might be a girl too. It is a bit of a
Nah.
sausage party, Lord of the Rings.
Star Wars is dead for $50. MCU for $20. Star Wars is dead for $20.
Follow trends, although you literally say
I just created
trending before I make a video. Something I don't do.
created a One Piece discussion right now. I just created one for the past 5 minutes.
Yes.
No, but I would have liked.
Did we just talk about One Piece for 5 minutes? Yes or no?
We didn't.
Yes,
One
we
Piece was used, but we didn't talk about it.
No.
Welcome to every video we make. We use one little thing and then we build the narrative out of it. Don't act like that's not what we
I
do.
don't build a narrative. I
You
give
are an
my
absolute
opinion.
fucking.
You are hard.
What we do. You've made the same fucking video on the same topic at least 7 times a week, Ryan. And you're gonna act like we don't do that.
I talk about I
Brie
talked
Larson
about
says one fucking thing and we make a whole video out of it. That's what we do.
Gary Pukeseller, I did time for selling meth and breaking and entering, had a comic shop for a while that I couldn't keep going and blamed the state, even though the person who took the building after me had a perfectly functioning business. So I started a YouTube channel that was pretty straightforward, but very soon I realized I could get money from kids, but instead of selling them drugs, I could do it by calling everything woke, killing their individual thought, and then repeating the same brain rot over and over again, clogging up YouTube's algorithm with hundreds of completely identical videos and staining the pop culture space with my utter dog shit.
Holy shit, what?
Oh, was the Marvels a poorly made woke piece of shit made by Disney? Did the multicolored superhero not give you the right feelings in your little tummy tum? Who fucking cares? Pieces of human shit like the Critical Drinker will tell you that is the state of film today, and good films aren't being made, even though the moron knows absolutely nothing about film or the film industry whatsoever. Really? Really? Because in that exact same year of 2023, you had fucking John Wick 4, Creed 3, Sisu, Mission Impossible, Dead Reckoning, The Creator, Oppenheimer, The Infinity Pool, and fucking Godzilla -1. And not to mention a whole bunch of fantastic independent films released in 2023. Holy goddamn shitballs. How many great movies can you pack into 12 calendar months?
That's great then.
You would have thought so, huh?
No.
No.
Shit.
You see, this is where me and other shitty talentless YouTubers come in. I started off just talking about films normally, but soon noticed that talking shit about something got more clicks and more views, and that means more money. So I started to focus more and more on ignoring anything good and hyper-focusing on anything I could find that I could call shit. I only need to pick out the smallest thing in a film, and I could say the whole thing is garbage, milk the bad-mouthing for weeks, and harvest a big chunk of cash. And hey, this was easy, as I said before. More films and shows made, the higher the percentage of bad ones I have to milk.
Someone get me a bagel.
At the same time, a few other pointless cunts noticed they could do the same and get the same dirty dollars. And that, my friend, was the start of the YouTube Super Zeros, a sad bunch of adults fixating on kids' films, seeing what we could criticize, wildly exaggerating everything for sensational sounding videos and gaslighting our subscribers for money.
So, Hollywood is not woke then?
How the fuck can it be? It's not one big singular entity, is it? One blob with one brain? What a stupid fucking turn of phrase. No.
The key isn't winning or losing, it's making the attempt. I may never be what I ought to be, want to be, but how will I know unless I try? Sure, it's scary, but what's the alternative? Stagnation. A safer, more terrible form of death, not of the body, but of the spirit. An animal knows what it is, and it accepts it. A man may know what he is, but he questions. He dreams, he strives, changes, grows.
Someone cooked here.
You can't see my penis, can you?
Fresh being true believer.
The other one, no organized chaos.
Actual fandom.
You should delete your channel.
The female version of Dick Grayson is Pussy Grey Daughter.
He's not alive, but he's right.
But really, if you want to do any kind of like karmic justice back in the fucking world for the damage that you're causing with this kind of shit, you should just delete your fucking channel. Okay? Drink it in. Yeah. Absorb it. Let it wash over you.
Think that just because a guy reads comics, he can't start some...
Woo. Yeah, hey, how's it going? Welcome, everybody. Whoa, really? Favorite time of the week is like my show? Are you? No, that's crazy. But I mean, awesome. Like, man, I gotta step it up then. Sometimes I'm just phoning it the fuck in. Tonight's not gonna be one of those nights. Just as soon as I get this thing uploaded that I'm trying to get uploaded, I'm always behind the 8 ball lately. And no, that doesn't mean I'm doing cocaine. You know what that means. Okay. There we go. Got the background up. Let me get that extra thing down there. Boom, it's gone. And yeah, hey, let's why waste time? Why? Chariot, how's it going?
Yo, what is up?
Shit. Ain't shit. It's just Friday, you know how we do around here. I don't know. Just trying to get my shit together. I'm so behind on stuff, but I'm also trying to make sure that I don't let that keep me from staying, current on my weekly activities and putting on a show for people that apparently this is like the highlight of their week. I just learned that. So how about you? What are you up to?
I totally feel the same way. Yeah, no, I've been getting bogged down and stuff. Working on some things behind the scenes. I feel like that's the way it is, where like you're on YouTube, so you don't want to like, be uploading nothing, be streaming nothing, but also like you want to put the work in and get stuff going long term. So
me and DJ streamed on Wednesday because the Shillcast is off right now, but both of us had the same kind of impulse of like, we should probably do something so people don't like forget us. Just it's probably not a good sign that we're that like we don't want people to forget us. But anyway, yeah, we got some fans in chat, looks like. And then
yeah, let's go. Real Chariot enjoyers going up on a Friday.
Look, dude, I was I can show you my scars. I was doing plasmas, selling my plasma for a good couple of years. Whenever I first moved to Portland from Texas, was just kind of trying to get my shit together. And man, I don't know what I would have done without it, to be honest. There was a good period there where I needed that shit.
How much, do you mind if I ask, like how often and how much you get selling plasma? I've never done that.
So it was was it like I'm trying to think. I think it is it twice a week? Like you start out and you can you get a bonus whenever you first go the first couple of times. It's something like up to $150 for 2 visits. And you can only go like there's a couple of days in between each visit, I believe is the rule. And then only a couple of times per week, I'm pretty sure. And yeah, just but I like once you get settled in and you're like doing it on a regular basis, you don't get any more bonuses really, except for now and then. But like the regular pay was like $45-50 per visit. So it's like
that's not nothing though. I mean, like
no, it's when you don't have much else, it's definitely I was like dealing with some pretty debilitating panic attacks and just like generalized anxiety and PTSD symptoms for a while, and Like I struggled to leave the house. I struggled to leave my room. But I would just work up what I could to go do that a couple of times a week, and that was the money that I needed for, whatever I needed generally. And that got me to a point where I was actually, got into therapy and started doing, cognitive behavioral therapy and just mindfulness meditation and all this stuff, and learned some skills and got a little better about these things. So.
Yeah, I get the real I get the mindfulness from that intro that you played earlier.
Yeah, I was hoping like I still kind of go back and forth on. I'm like, is that kind of cringe? I don't know.
I mean, I feel like it's like the adult version of like when you were a kid, and like kids would have like Lunchables at like elementary school,
Yeah.
and if your mom made you a sandwich, it's like, I just got this sandwich. But like now, we're finding out some of that stuff had lead in it, so actually, or whatever the hell, microplastics, all kinds of crazy stuff.
Are you
so
saying
actually
microplastics and being mindful?
No, it's like the opposite. It's like the cringe thing that's healthy for you.
Oh, I see.
It might not be cool, but
Right. Well, I mean,
in
that's
10
kinda
years
why
when you're living mindfully.
Because what ultimately is cringe is like not having like any kind of management over your emotional states or awareness of like what's going on in your psychology and stuff like that. That's pretty cringe, I think.
It's the mindset of a man who does not wash his ass, and this is a place we wash ass here.
We wash ass here, and speaking of men that don't wash their asses, I think there's a few of them that are pretty upset today.
I've heard you were telling.
Basically, all of them are probably upset in one way or another. Between the Trump thing and Kathleen Kennedy having to throw salt into the wound today or whatever yesterday, she said that.
Yeah. That Trump conviction is. He'll probably still be the Republican nominee. I have to figure.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Be a pretty big
he
upset.
Might still be the fucking president, but like this, the fact that it got this far, I never allowed myself to believe that it was going to be anything close to this. Even knowing he's not going to prison, I'm like, really convicted on 34 fucking counts. Did you look at any of the details of that? Because
I have been following some of it, but I haven't dipped too much into like the discourse about it because I wanted to be the first person to make this joke. Okay, all right. He is the orange man now for a different reason. He's going to be wearing orange. So he may still be the orange president, but
I don't know, because it depends on how they do the color coding of the jumpsuits wherever. Because like I know that when I was in jail years ago, it was like I was in blue, and then the people that had been were in there for violent crimes or aggressive crimes or whatever was orange. So like that's how they distinguished what kinds of crimes. I don't know if that's a common thing or what, but like presumably he didn't do anything violent. Not
that he was found guilty yet.
Right. Well, I mean, he technically was civilly liable, maybe, but not guilty yet.
Yeah. Wow. Well, I mean, did you see when the trial was kind of at its peak? Did you see that bit where a bunch of the like pro-Trump, I kind of want to call them like slacktivists or like social media activists, like a bunch of guys like took pictures of themselves showing up to the courthouse, and they had like they were like coming through, and they had the Trump uniform where it's like the dark navy suit with the red tie and the white shirt, and they were all dressed the same. These are the guys who like vote for people like that and follow the people like that and subscribe to people like that, right? Who will come into your comments section and call you an NPC. That is crazy. Right. We live in a crazy world.
It is crazy. It is legitimately insane that like that we're getting called NPCs and like and snowflakes by and degenerates and all this shit. When it's like, this is going back to the not washing their ass thing. I don't know if you've seen this going around, but let me share it here.
I'm NPC.
These people, these people.
Cool. Oh Jesus Christ! What am I looking at?
So this was a real image from an actual Trump rally. Like,
oh Lord, please tell me someone just sat in something and then moved one chair over.
I don't. It looks like it's just like a it's like a romantic night out for a couple or something where they just like blasted ass. I don't know. It's who knows. Who knows how the other side lives? But
dude, taking a ride to Hershey Squirt Station, that shit's ridiculous. Get out of here. Go home.
Don't get me started. You're gonna just cause me to remember all those old, euphemisms for poop, and it's gonna make me giggle and it's gonna be stupid. Everybody will unsubscribe and shit. Anyway, yeah. What do you think about what was I gonna say? Oh yeah. So the Trump verdict was the jurors like had, I guess, listed what media that they consume, right? Like, so each juror was on a graph that I saw that, like, there's CNN, Fox News, even OAN or whatever, and Newsmax and shit. And like, there was one juror who legitimately only gets news from Truth Social and from X and Twitter. And but this is a conviction, so that means that person also voted to convict him.
What was the vote? I didn't actually see what the vote was.
Oh, it was everybody. Like, this is a kind of conviction.
Was it you?
Unanimous.
Like unanimous.
Everybody
okay,
has
okay.
to. Yeah.
Oh Jesus! Well, I guess they just had to pull that person kicking and screaming.
I imagine maybe we'll find out the story someday, but yeah, it's. Whew. Or maybe it was just so obvious that
there'll be a good.
I don't know.
It's that in a year or something.
There is the concern kind of fundraising being higher now. Because these people aren't playing. They're not doing politics for like any real political reason or any real like policy reason, substantive reason.
Yeah.
It's just like it's all just team sports now, and they've convinced themselves that we've cheated at I'm not fucking calling myself a Bidenist or something like that, but people who are not pro-Trump generally, anti-MAGA folks, it's that we've just been cheating this whole time, and so therefore anything they do is justified. And man, it's fucking crazy. It's fucking crazy that why can he still run for president, but convicted felons can't vote for president?
That is pretty crazy. Like the whole like convicted felons being able to live in a country where their lives will be dictated completely by how the government is run. Like from the moment they wake up in the morning. If you're in a federal prison, like basically your whole life is that. It's you're living in like the thing that people use to compare like the security state to,
right?
It's an analogy for an oppressive system, and that's your life.
I can tell you,
but you have no say in it.
I've been incarcerated for I guess you call it that, for 6 weeks. I was in jail once, years and years ago, and I got to tell you, it's made to not be liked. It's made to make you wish you were not there. And yeah, until you have like all of your I guess your entire agency more or less taken from you, and you have to like hold on to any shred of identity that you have. And that was just, like I said, for 6 fucking weeks. It's not even that long comparatively to people that have been in there for drug offenses for 20-25 years or whatever.
Yeah.
And I knew I was getting out, so it was like it was a fixed date and everything. It was all just to like serve my time so that I could get this freaking stuff off my record that I had. Not a big deal, but it still was like, ugh. And so I have empathy for people in prison, in jail and whatnot. But yeah, anyway, I don't know where I was going with that.
Yeah. I just think it's interesting because like when you actually, when you look at that, like, system, I had an argument once with somebody. This just really sticks with me in my brain. Somebody once said to me, because I was like, well, felons should be able to vote, like even like from prison, like what are they gonna do, right? At least in like a federal election, like I can understand like if they're voting in like something that's local, you'd want them to be voting in a way that sways where they're from, not where the prison is, because then you just have a pocket of people who like weighed out one local election. But there are ways to do that. But it's just interesting because what the person said to me is like, well, we can't let them vote because they'll just start like swinging elections and then they'll vote to free themselves. And I was like, brother, if you put enough human beings in prison that that prisons alone can swing an election, They should be allowed to do that.
Yeah,
I'm gonna be the one to say it. They should be allowed to do that. No, I agree. Because like, if just imagine a world where, like, I don't know, like a solid enough portion of the country is in prison. You know, imagine, right? Imagine a world where a significant portion of the U.S. population is in prison. Wouldn't that be really unjust? That'd be crazy. I'm glad we don't live in that world. That would, wow. We're so blessed.
Pink Bunny Zero, that's where I was about to go with it. Like, I'm pretty sure that makes all the sense in the world in the context of we live in a white supremacist nation. It was in just one of the ways that they found to, you know, limit the freedom of newly freed slaves, I suppose.
Yeah, I'm reasonably certain that was an argument against giving like certain groups of people the vote at different times. Because, like, what if they vote and it is bad for, you know, us?
Yeah,
I'm not going to say who us is, but we know, right?
We can't.
Like,
have
what if
that
happened? I don't know. That's bit spooky.
Can't be allowing that kind of business. So I was looking around here. Have you heard of have you seen any of Pillar of Garbage's videos?
Yeah, I'm actually a big Pillar of Garbage subscriber, big viewer.
Oh, you're a pillhead. Okay.
Yeah,
me too.
Yeah, I'm garbage pilled, you might say.
Garbage pilled. That's amazing. I don't know if he's thought of that one. Yeah. So you've seen I guess his web of grifter media video, and then like he's been kind of going down that road a couple of times lately. You know, showing
the Across the Grifterverse video made me laugh.
Oh yeah, it's absolutely. Yeah. I mean, I have let's see, I have this right here, right now.
Words are flowing out like woke Mary Sue, objective truth. They don't mean much, but nothing ever does across the grifterverse. Nothing's gonna make me woke. Nothing's gonna make me woke.
Fucking masterpiece. Just absolutely amazing. So yeah, that stuff is really, for one thing, it's very gratifying for me personally as somebody who's been kind of like putting these connections together for a while now, and then like trying to point it out to people. And literally, like, basically whenever I don't know if he was already onto this. I need to ask him, I guess. I don't know if he was already onto it or if he saw me talking about it and then was like, oh, that's something I want to cover. But yeah, he got a lot of his info on this, or at least the impetus to look down this direction from, you know, stuff I've been putting together. And yeah, it's really cool, and it's really, like, the guy's amazing. And hopefully he's not watching right now, because he was watching earlier, and so I'm kind of hoping that means he's not watching now. It's maybe late for him, because I'm a big fan, and it's ridiculous. That, like, yeah,
he did the Glass Onion video addressing the critical drinker, right?
Yes,
that made people
how I first
very, very mad.
I first came up, we, like, the initiative kind of saw that happen. Like, we basically heard that there was somebody that made a video critical of Drinker, and then did we watch the video first before that? I don't remember. I don't know. We got some coverage of it over on the Show Clips channel. You should subscribe if you're not, guys. It's in the description. But like, yeah, it really, the way he described the interaction that you have with EFAP, if they decide to interact with you, to grace you with their presence, was just like, man, he's fucking saying all the things that, like, I just have been wanting somebody to say in just the right ways that I've wanted somebody to say it. Like, you know, somebody with a larger platform, and I was like, this guy's a hero instantly. But like, so I just thought it might be interesting to look at something like this, talking about Trump. Let's see. You got Cobra Cast, which, funny enough, that's not even the only thing called Cobra Cast. So, real original Jeremy Griggs.
Oh yeah, I remember finding out that his Twitter account is the D-Day Cobra account.
Yeah.
It is like very.
So, you know, I think it's pretty obvious that he's kind of like checked out from the fans part of his grift kind of thing for the most part. You know what I mean? Like, he's just kind of going through the motions these days. Like he was watching, what was it, the Fallout trailer? He's just like, diversity, diversity.
Yeah.
Just saying diversity.
You have to say the magic words, you know? It's like
but
when
like,
you're a
yeah,
kid
just
and your parents want you
not
to
even
say
pointing
please.
out why or anything, just literally just just diversity. But I just thought this was funny because then like the next day after that one was found guilty.
Yeah,
And
amazing.
This
New
is,
York
if you
court
go-
case will fail against President Trump. That's a great headline. I love that.
Sure. Like, I guess you just have to not have any shame, right? Like, or the money just kind of allows you to not think about it. I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I think the thing is, like, there's a lot of guys like Jeremy Griggs on YouTube, right?
Yeah.
And I guess by that I mean like there's a lot of those like guys who kind of start as like small accounts. They just sit and talk to a camera about what they think about a geek fandom thing. And you know, they don't get a lot of views and a lot of subs. And then they pivot. Yep. And you know, you pivot and certain things do really well in the algorithm and you can really hook an audience with certain kinds of content. And it happens to basically every YouTuber where if you start gaining consistent views and subs, even if you're a relatively small YouTuber compared to like these like million sub accounts, but you know, you start gaining views and subs, people will expect you to keep doing the thing that they, you know, came to you for. So if you say woke, you know, 20 times in 20 different videos, that's you forever now, baby. You better love that because that's going to be your YouTube career. And you could blow it up, you know, and you'll take some initial losses and maybe if you can pivot well enough into something else, you can salvage it. But, you know, I don't get a real sense of like analytical passion from a lot of these guys. I do get a sense of like they like the fandom space.
Right.
It's a comfort zone, maybe is like a good way of putting it. You know, like that's kind of what they're used to talking about certain kinds of things.
Well, were you seeing any of the pre-stream reel that I showed with Gary?
I caught a little bit of it. I like the puppets, by the way. That's been really good.
Those are, I don't know if you've checked into them independently, but like generally they're doing good, the Lord's work, so to speak. But they're also apparently kind of like the conservatives, and they I don't know. There's maybe we can talk about it later on or something. But there is a concerning aspect to that whole puppet thing that I'm not sure about. But like,
really?
So Gary, like, there's literally footage. Like, here is, let's see, yeah, right here in
I really dislike the fake geek thing and the poser nerd thing. That's not what we're about. We're about inclusiveness and we want new people in. And if new people, you know, spout off and make mistakes, hey, don't we all?
Well, yeah, it's a very exciting time for Dennis. Home ownership is wonderful. It's the process is probably like, I don't know. No, I don't want to equate it to giving birth. That's disrespectful though. It's like a,
you know, like Gary, what did he just
wow?
Like, was he just considerate of you know, people giving birth, and that might be actually be sincerely painful, and maybe that's not the same thing as
you know, it really hits me here listening to these two clips. Like this sounds like the kind of guy who, you know, like if he's dating your cousin and you see him at a family gathering once a year, you'd actually have a pleasant conversation and a good time. I come from a big family, so that happens to me a lot. I don't know if that's relatable to anyone else.
Like,
but...
I mean, I'm from the South. He definitely seems like somebody that, I mean, I would know from, you know, kind of like maybe one of my brother's friends or something like that. Just, yeah. And clearly something happened, right? Like you were just describing. And they, you know, I mean, that pop counterculture video that you used some of it in your video, which is, I was leading to that, by the way. I just finished watching your video on Griggs and The Last Jedi yesterday. But
really? Yeah.
So like, yeah, that he documented it so well that like Jeremy Griggs, that's a really interesting case because you can literally kind of see him wrestling with the choice. Do you know what I mean? Like over the course of a few days there's like this video to this video. It's like in this one he's saying, I love The Last Jedi. Then another video a couple of days later or whatever, he's like, you know, I don't know. It's just, it's weird. I'm not sure how I feel about it, you know? And it's like almost like you could just see him turning the fucking, turning over the ethics of it, and like, do I really want to do this? Can I commit to this? It sure is a lot of views and money, and and then it's clear what he decided, but yeah, interesting.
The more I look at that movie as a case study, because what it kind of was its own, how like right now certain people really want this whole Gamergate 2 sexuality censorship kind of thing to take off, and it's kind of floundered a little bit.
Really. Yeah.
And then before that, we had Comicsgate for a minute, and that was also never really quite at the level of like a Gamergate event. It never quite escaped the pull of a lot of these fandom spaces.
I know a few people that still think that Comicsgate is a very valid thing that's going on, and it's thriving even.
Yeah, I mean, it's
not just
maybe
a couple of guys that have used a hashtag to manage to continue to grow.
Maybe in their spaces it is, but I think a lot of people have really kind of left it, not been in it and left like it as a movement, but just kind of started to move on rhetorically, focusing on a lot of other stuff. Whereas like Gamergate, I think it was a one of a kind, but we've had a lot of like repeat kind of echoes of it, and I think the Last Jedi thing was one of those cultural moments.
Yes.
The more I look at it, the more it feels like that social experiment where like they film people like getting into elevators, and in one case they have a bunch of people stand facing, and they're like paid actors, they face the wrong direction to see if people who get in will face the wrong direction with them just because everybody else is doing it.
I haven't seen that, but I can imagine. I think I know how that probably turned out.
It's it's a really fascinating little thing, and I think about that a lot. One of my sociology professors, we had a whole a little unit talking about stuff like that when I was in university years ago. So it's kind of faded a little bit, but something that when I communicate these ideas, something that seems to bounce off of people who have more like I guess more conservative predilections, not necessarily dyed-in-the-wool conservatives, but just leaning more in that direction than maybe some of the liberals that I know. People like that, they don't tend to observe something that I think is really important, which is that when people when you study human behavior, people on a large enough scale stop acting like individuals and start acting like groups. And by that, I don't mean that they like fulfill stereotypes or anything. I mean that like there's different, like group psychology is distinct from the psychology of individuals and plays off of it in a really particular way. So it's really fascinating. And I've been trying to get more into reading like psychology, because at this point, like I started my YouTube channel, like making content on it, like mid to late 2017. And I feel like at this point, I should have some pretty important takeaways from sitting in these spaces, which was kind of what spurred the whole like Last Jedi videos thing. Was being on YouTube when that happened, I was like, what the hell is going on here? So, that film came out and it just kept going.
Have you had to have looked into like rewriting Ripley, right? Read any of those?
Yeah. I haven't looked into it, but I think I heard you talk about it actually. Did you talk about that with really Eric DeBunks on stream?
I'm sure I did. I talk about it regularly because honestly, it is the kind of the foundation of all this for me. And like, it not only is it like The Last Jedi was a cultural moment that like, it's almost at the core of everything when it comes to this stuff. Not just the moment, the meta context, but the content of the film itself. You know what I mean? And like the fact that there's that Rian Johnson focuses on the multiple perspectives of Luke and what's his name, Kylo and stuff. And like it, and then you think about, I don't know how much you've paid attention to EFAP and how they do their content, but like their objective reviews of things, which is fucking absurd. You know what I mean? And I've railed against that quite a bit. And like, it's just kind of, and then obviously there's, it's obvious to me that in The Last Jedi, Rian Johnson is making some pretty he's admonishing some right wing, kind of conservative reactionary mentalities and stuff like that. It's all right there, and it's just kind of like bizarre the more I think about it, But yeah, rewriting Ripley is it's some women that did several data studies. We could look at it if you want to, like, just for a minute. We're not gonna because it's
of course,
pretty in depth, but I'd like to introduce you to it if you don't mind, and anybody else.
Go ahead, yeah.
Let's see. And look, and I know there's probably going to be people watching this that as soon as I say rewriting Ripley, because I see how the chuds have reacted to this stuff and how they scoff at it and they say, oh, guilt by association, all this stuff, and it's like, well, no, but there's a little bit more than just simple association going on here, and this is definitely not a flawless. These are not fucking flawless data studies, but there's plenty in here that is just correct, and you can tell.
I think I'm kind of starting to remember this. Yeah, this right here. You showed a little bit of this on stream once before, but I don't think people in my chat will have seen anything like this.
So it started with this one. This is the first one, and it is quite a read. It is, I think it's a 76-minute read or something like that. And yeah, how white supremacy, misogyny, and hate targeted the Star Wars sequel trilogy and won. And I, this is why, like, other than just The Rise of Skywalker being disappointing on many levels as a film, the extra layer to it is that it is a movie that essentially was caused by, a white supremacist, misogynist, reactionary contingent of quote unquote fans that now obviously Star Wars, like Lucasfilm, they've realized that these people were not people they should have listened to in the first place, but they didn't know that then. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like they took you can look at the critic review, the box office, and even the audience score of The Last Jedi. By all metrics, they should have just kept going with whatever direction that movie kicked things into, right? But they didn't, and there was a lot last minute changes, and of course they had to do with the director change and everything. But like, I don't think you know what I mean, that there's several things that were set in place in The Last Jedi that were very clearly like rejected by J.J. Abrams in Rise of Skywalker.
Yeah, and part of that was, I think, overdetermined as well by the fact that J.J. was already slated to write the first and third, or direct, I should say, the first and third films. Because I don't mean to be rude to J.J. Abrams, but he seems like the kind of guy who gets along well with others. He has, to use a workplace euphemism, he plays well in the sandbox. And you've got people. That's also, by the way, why one of the reasons, one of a couple reasons why Dave Filoni has had so much work and has done so well doing Star Wars stuff at Disney, is because he is like, everybody who works with Dave Filoni is like, oh my God, I loved working with Dave. He's so great. Like, look at all the stuff that he did for us. And he was so like supportive of this, and he was coaching us through everything. Like, it's, at a certain point, I think one thing that people forget is that for some people, this is like their job, and they're like, going to work when they're making your tasty little treats that you like to make your YouTube videos about, at a certain point, these people just have certain like basic considerations that they have to deal with in the workplace. But J.J. Abrams, as much as I've seen people talk about how great he is to work with, does not seem like somebody who would pivot a film franchise out of political principle or refuse to, right? No. So he doesn't seem like he'd be that invested. That's just my personal reading.
I mean, I kind of agree. And I don't know that, like, I don't know that they even realized some of the stuff they were kind of like, kind of walking back or whatever in that sequel were really related to being into anything political necessarily. Yeah. I think they, at this point, you got to think, cast your mind back to 2017, 2018 and stuff. Like, it took the entirety of the Trump administration, for me anyway, to kind of like get a good, solid read on the contingencies of who, is who, and like, what does a fucking alt-right or white nationalist, argument narrative look like? You know what I mean? how confident, and now I think I got a pretty good grasp on that stuff. But I think all of us were in the fucking dark for a couple of years there, trying to figure this shit out. But like, yeah. So here you've got. They start off talking about, like I say here, despite a 90% approval rating from critics and an A cinema score, can't stop talking about how polarizing it is. Alienated fans en masse sent Disney's multi-billion-dollar juggernaut in unsatisfactory direction. Creators have commented against it. J.J. Abrams acknowledged the animosity towards the franchise's 8th installment, suggesting that fans didn't want to be told that what they love about Star Wars doesn't matter, which is fucking bizarre to me, because I don't feel like Last Jedi did that. Do you? Like,
so this is one of those things where, like, and I actually have a couple of videos about this exact phenomenon.
I know. I really did mean to get to that before us.
Yeah,
because I got excited. Let me pull your channel up.
Specifically about this idea that, like, for example, you see a film, right? Like, I don't know. Can you name like a beloved like 80s, 90s male like action film?
Yeah, Terminator 2.
Yeah, so Terminator. So like, let's say Arnold is, I mean, maybe not, because they've already kind of brought back Terminator films with Arnold in them. But like, let's just say hypothetically they weren't doing newer Terminator, and for the first time ever, since like the third Terminator or whatever, we're going to see Arnold again in a Terminator film, and it's like this big publicized thing. And they bring him back, and everybody's like, "Oh, I can't wait to see, what he's going to do, what he's going to be. He's older now, but maybe there's going to be something, right? It's going to be big, 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 big." And they put him in a film, and they give his character a line about how, for example, traveling back in time, one of his previous Terminator selves did the wrong thing, like made a mistake or something,
Mm-hmm.
To then, first of all, make a bunch of content about that, calling that like emasculating, essentially, which is basically what the Critical Drinkers' core thesis about Luke Skywalker is that there's something about the male hero that has been undermined for reasons of the political perspective of the people who are doing the undermining. They have some kind of, message.
He has not
or
made
agenda.
a very strong case of that, though.
Well, his case with Luke Skywalker is really interesting because the premise there is essentially that Luke, and he actually, this is very funny, he has some older videos from back when this was more current, where he talked about how to rewrite Luke Skywalker. And he even does it in his main video that I wrote about in, I think it was my like second ever Last Jedi videos video, where he specifically talks about like the idea of like Luke Skywalker is a hero and people viewed him this way, and a good way to do Luke in this film would be this. He describes him as essentially having no arc.
Oh my God, what?
He describes like the ideal Luke Skywalker story is like, in the beginning Luke is awesome, and at the end he's awesome, and in the middle he's awesome. And it's so funny to me, and something that I've brought up like endlessly is just, there's like a million people who are like like real gatekeepy will call people fake fans, or tourist is one that I hear a lot in like certain subcultures. But it is interesting that there's this whole thesis people seem to have about Luke Skywalker, that being tempted to the dark side was a bad writing choice for Luke, because that was sort of what his arc kind of ended with, him conquering in Return of the Jedi.
Yeah.
And there's a ghost of an argument there. I do think it's interesting that The Last Jedi was the first time we heard this. I never heard this when Luke Skywalker was tempted to darkness and actually killed a woman, by the way, in Legends, in the books, the books that were like, it would be like sacrosanct, like the Xanverse, like the post episode 6 expanded universe of Star Wars, where the books were founded on the stuff written by people like Timothy Zahn. Luke kills Lumia, who has a lightsaber whip, which I'm a big stan of. Love the light whip. I realize I'm in the minority there. It's okay.
No, I mean,
I'm comfortable
down
standing
to, I mean,
alone.
It looks cool so far. I'm down to see more.
I can't remember exactly how it comes about, but he kills her in like a moment of anger, and then his nephew kills, and I also have a whole video about like how stuff from the old EU got remade into the current version. So like his nephew, which he has obviously one of in the current canon, kills his wife, I believe. She tries to stop him and loses like a lightsaber duel, or I think is how it happens. It's been a while. It's been years. I read these books when I was in like elementary school and middle school. And what happens after that, and I know this much more clearly because I own this particular book. It's a Troy Denning book called Invincible, where Jason and Jaina, the twin solo Skywalker twins, have to fight each other. The pretty decent book. And something that happens there is that Luke is going to fight Jason because he's the strongest Jedi, but he refuses, and everybody doesn't really understand why. And Jaina figures it out, you know, which, by the way, if Rey has a moment like that in the films, that's Mary Sue. When Jaina did it, it was fine. But it's interesting. She figures it out and she goes, "Oh, you're tainted. You think you're tainted by the dark side because you killed Lumia in anger. And if you kill your wife's killer, you're afraid that you'll fall to the dark side. So that's why you're not fighting." And the way that Luke helps Jaina in that book is by like doing a force astral projection to help empower her and put her brother off his game, which is super similar to what happens in The Last Jedi. Like beat for beat, that certain elements of that plot are actually preserved. So when people call that film disrespectful, that's a knowledge check, I fear, because like it respected a couple things actually. And I think that it's crazy that we've seen, you know, God, what's it been like? I think I found like 100 anti-Last Jedi videos at some point while I was searching. There's so much.
There's a lot. It's a huge fucking subgenre on YouTube. Yeah, I mean, and you're right. It's a knowledge. It's a lack of knowledge, and yet, you know, just utter confidence in that they understand these films. It's you know, with Critical Drinker, there's the you know, just the fact that he starts off and he does the same thing with Rocky from Creed, when he's, you know, he basically just ignores that these movies have an ending, and he's just kind of like judges the entire character from the movies based on where we see them when we meet up with them. You know what I mean? So like Luke is just a sad old man,
yeah,
and he's just given up, and that's kind of briefly talk about it. And by the way, everybody, you should check out this playlist if you haven't, because it's good. It's very, very good. I think it's probably, I mean, honestly, the definitive series of videos on, you know, the bad faith criticism, so to speak, or quote unquote criticism of The Last Jedi.
Thank you. Yeah. Hopefully by the end it will be. And I also want to do a completely separate video with my own critiques of the Star Wars films, because you know,
I would like to hear that too.
Leave too much of that on the table.
It seems like you go through a lot of effort to like get around, not really go into what you think about it as much as you do like just try to, you know, point out the problems with their criticism. Is that right?
Yeah, well, and I mean, I think that I believe in my heart that was the right call, because what you've noticed, and I think what a lot of other people have noticed as well and pointed out, is that this happens with like every new thing that comes out. Before it's even out, it's woke, you know? So like at some point we have to look at the people who say these things, notice the pattern, and go, this is not about the content. It could be anything. This something else is going on here. And that's kind of figuring out what that was for that film is kind of and what we can learn from it and where to go from here, I guess, is kind of
there's a lot
my purpose
that
there.
film. I feel like that one in particular is going to be studied, you know, in all kinds of ways and dissected for a long time.
Yeah.
And in that way,
you mentioned, I do want to say, you mentioned the Creed thing, the Rocky thing. Really interesting, by the way. So this is just like this is just like conservative people not being very good at understanding like art. Treating that as a political agenda is super fascinating to me. It sounds a lot like the way conservatives used to talk about like hip hop music causing like crime rates in black neighborhoods, because they would hear the songs that describe violence, in some cases gang violence, or like attitudes towards women, stuff like that, and they would hear the attitude expressed in the song. And because they treat basically all media like it functions like the Bible, like I use the phrase morally didactic in the Lily Orchard video. They treat basically everything like that. They go, oh, it says it in the thing, and so rappers must be like we are for the Bible. They must be for the Bible tells me so, but with rap music. That must be how they think. And it's this very foreign kind of projection. But what really happened there is that there was some really shocking disenfranchisement and economic downturn in certain communities that was then being described by artists. And you can argue that sometimes art perpetuates certain attitudes just by virtue of sharing them. But it is impossible to comment on something in art without like ever depicting it in any capacity. So like the degree to which people would have to, without any intervention really, completely pull themselves up by their own bootstraps and develop perfect awareness of things. I mean, you're probably kind of familiar with this discourse about like the political left and how we kind of expect people to enter the conversation with perfect knowledge, lest we scold them and finger wag at them. It's kind of like that, but from the political right. Nobody ever calls them out for this because it's their resting state. But it's really interesting that all these films depicting like beaten down heroes of yore, old men who have just taken all they can take, you know, to call that emasculating, I think kind of removes any ability to genuinely interact with the fact that this is something that is genuinely happening to men. It's happening to a lot of people, granted, but you know, you should be able to talk about it when it happens to men, right? Like the purchasing power of your dollar doesn't go as far as it used to, you know. You're losing in many states like your labor rights, you know. Like for every like Last Jedi or Creed or whatever, there's thousands of like union workers who are like 50 and 60 who are thinking like, do I get to retire? You know? And to act like it's wrong to describe that in art, just a feeling, you know, because for most people, it's just going to be a feeling. It's not going to be a statistic. It's not going to be a philosophical point. It's going to be a feeling. It's going to be, you know, I look at my dad and life is hard for him. And that makes me feel a certain way as an artist. So I depict it as a feeling. To then look at that and say like, well, you're like emasculating men by depicting men being treated poorly is like, that's like saying that like men just have to shut up and take it, which is why the people who say that are conservatives, because that's what they believe. Like, it comes full circle.
Maestro, I mean, yes, but like that's actually the interesting thing is that if you look at the timeline of it, and one of these days I'm gonna lay it out. Like I kind of feel like this just my fucking fate is to you know write the literal book on anti-fandom or something. But like, yeah, the timeline goes that these people already existed in some capacity. There was already Ghostbusters 2016. That was kind of like the first, you know, kind of, you know, there's Gamergate, of course, and then there was a lot of overlap with that. But Ghostbusters 2016 was like the first in the film side of things where like you started seeing kind of this reactionary, you know, thing. But at the same time, I think that movie sucks, and a lot of the stuff about it is, you know, of course, it has nothing to do with anybody's gender or anything like that, but it's just not a very good movie. It's not very funny to me, and the plot sucks and whatnot. But nonetheless, doesn't matter. Point is that they kind of started finding each other with that, and then let's see, but yeah, but before that ever came out, I think then you had the first you had the Force Awakens trailer. And this was a pretty big moment for me, and I think for a lot of those guys, because I realized how racist some of the Star Wars fans were. Like, I just kind of never had considered that. But like that first shot of the Force Awakens trailer, where, you know, it's Finn, takes his helmet off, black guy, you know? And then I started seeing a lot of really concerning shit just about that fact. And I think that they kind of found each other, started finding each other there. and they, that wasn't the Fandom Menace yet or anything like that. But then from there, between that movie and then the Last Jedi, yeah, they'd coalesced. They'd started finding each other and kind of been doing this content. You already had your Doomcock doing his thing, doing it about Star Trek and whatever else. And yeah, and then with the Last Jedi, once that came out, you saw guys like Griggs, really fucking get pulled into it. That's just what happened.
Yeah.
I don't know if you've seen anything similar to that. If you have anything,
well, I
disagree with
guess
that timeline, loose
what
timeline.
I want to say about that is like there's a kind of Faustian bargain being made by a lot of these guys on a kind of like a quarterly basis, essentially, to put it in no uncertain terms. I mentioned the Gamergate 2 stuff earlier.
Yeah.
That if that did take off, they might think that they want it. They're idiots if they think that. Gamergate, the first one, when that really first of all took off, you had people who were like the anti-feminist skeptic type YouTubers who all of a sudden they were doing videos defending Amos Yee. They were collaborating with Davis Arini. They were like, who was another like just absolute millstone, to a certain degree, Stefan Molyneux and Lauren Southern, people like that.
Yeah, that's what I mean. Like literally, I don't know how much you looked into the fact that Steve Bannon has openly admitted that he saw Gamergate happening and was like, "Oh, I'm gonna basically corral those guys into a political movement." And he's he sent Milo Yiannopoulos was kind of his fucking agent, to kind of send in
Milo
there.
Yiannopoulos, another one. Yeah.
I mean, he
Absolutely.
literally was like riling things up and like getting people, to sowing these, the kinds of attitudes that, like tying it all together in young men's minds. I think, like, you're mad about this. Well, this is related to this and this, and it's like,
maybe this is my tinfoil hat moment, but I think that's why Ghostbusters 2016 and Force Awakens, despite in some ways being perfect films for like the kind of post Gamergate grifterverse, to use the pillar of garbage word, they weren't as big as The Last Jedi because those creators hadn't forced the bad ones out yet. So they actually have to do a little cancel culture to keep themselves just clean enough. Like, it's one thing if they have Discord logs where they say the N-word or something, but it's another thing if you have a guy on your stream who like consistently defends, certain acts with children, right? Like that was the Amos Yee thing. Like eventually everybody burnt the bridge with that guy, almost everybody.
That was what
I think Sargon defended him for a long
on,
time because he has no principles. But
Milo was on Drunken Peasants and just started talking about how some unfortunate shit.
Yeah, Milo Yiannopoulos, another one. Yeah, you need. This is something that happens to like left-wingers as well, is that they get really suspicious of structures of like social power that regulate communities, and then in the process, what actually ends up happening is some of them will make certain concessions where they'll say, okay, well, sometimes a dude's got to go, right? Sometimes you got to cancel somebody. Sometimes you just have to say something, or they'll adopt an attitude where if you criticize me for anything, you're basically infringing on my freedoms, which is essentially the free speech argument at a certain level that some people seem to believe in. Like I saw on Twitter earlier that there was a post that was getting some traction, and the person who posted it actually had to clarify that they didn't believe the dumbass stuff that people were posting about it, because people were saying that it was censorship, that some outfit that the character had got changed over time, and it was a female character in like one game and another version of a game.
Censorship, right? Like, Jesus Christ.
People were calling it censorship, and it's
I covered not sweet, but the goddamn Grums or whatever his name is. Oh shit! Sorry about that. Talking about a Stellar Blade and how like just a little piece of cloth that was added between her tits was somehow censorship.
Yeah, it's a real tragedy.
McLeod, you're not being bad. You're making 3 comment arguments repeatedly, and I disagree, and I think you're actually kind of wrong, and being kind of you're kind of like you're just once is fine. Like, you can be wrong in the chat, but then like you're repeating it multiple comments, and it's like at that point I start to feel like it was just kind of misinformation being pushed. You know what I mean? But like, I mean, no, I mean, you're saying
I didn't see those messages.
He was saying it wasn't the chuds that were that ruined Rise of Skywalker. It was the purists and the gatekeepers. And I'm like, yeah, man, but it was really what it was chuds masquerading as fucking purists and gatekeepers, or maybe they really are purists and gatekeepers. Nonetheless, there was all that shit was tied in together, and to try to separate them like that, I think is it doesn't paint a healthy picture of what was going on. You know what I mean? Like there was no hard division between who was doing that. It was just like there were fucking, bigots, and some of them were bigots who realized that if they weaponized these gatekeepy talking points, then, it could help them.
Yeah.
But
I will say, like I understand the impulse to want to start to differentiate, and say, well, these people, like, I mean, I think we've all had that moment where we go, are these people real, like, fans? Are they really into this? Because it seems like they'll make a video about something and it's like a movie adaptation of a book that they've never read, and they don't see the movie, certainly not before they make a video where they just react to a trailer before the film comes out, and they give a diagnosis about why the film is going to fail. That kind of thing. I mean, first of all, people who sit in the audience of those people, I've come to believe that to a certain extent, they're a little comfortable with the idea that it's misinformation.
Yes. Well, I mean, they're
not blind, right? Like,
let me ask you, have you seen any of the debates that I've been involved in as far as this Star Wars topic and stuff at all? Like,
I will have to go back. I did want to react to one of you had a Last Jedi debate that I thought looked really interesting, and I saw part of it, and I thought, oh, I should react.
That one's a friendly debate with Matt Jarbo. That was like, it was actually fun because he did have some criticisms that I think he's misreading some things and not applying judgment fairly. But it is not based on any of the bullshit that a lot of what tends to get thrown about Mary Sue's and stuff. But like, no, so I've had two debates specifically with actually both of them I think were with one of them was a Geeks and Gamers fan. One of them, and then the other one was Organized Chaos, and I debated two guys who were defending the honor of Critical Drinker and Rags, who Chaos had made a video or two videos or something, and basically called them racist because of the way that they reacted and dealt with the Reva stuff from Obi-Wan Kenobi, and they took offense to that, and then, man, that's both of those debates I learned a lot from, for sure. Like in the first one, I learned that, and this is a guy that had reached out to me after I made a video saying essentially the same thing about Geeks and Gamers, that this is racism is what's driving them to react this way and to, say these things. And he took offense to that, but he was very civil and like even friendly, and like, he sent an email that was like professional and it was fine. It was a good time. He was a pretty nice guy, I doubt there's going to be a whole lot of those guys out like that, but nonetheless, what I learned from him was that I had never considered that. So like, he was saying that you know what, let me pull up a clip because I think that'll say more than anything. But and the other one though was really, really bizarre in a lot of ways, but also fun because the guy was drunk. One of the guys was drunk, and it became more and more obvious. And he also dropped the N-word in an attempt to prove that he and his YouTubers were not racist. But what I learned from them is that, like, both of those guys at some point admitted to not really watching movies, and that they mainly just watch YouTubers talk about movies.
Well,
and that's like,
can I say something? I think that's why some of these YouTuber reviews are so long. Is because you watch the review, you go, wow, I haven't seen this movie, I wonder what it's about, and you go and you have the YouTuber experience.
That's what I'm saying. But that's how a lot of them can be so confident, and they like know the elements that are of the movie, like they know the character names, they know the things that happen, but they can still be so fucking wrong in a lot of cases because they're not like actually getting context, and they're having the kind of fed to them in a certain way. But yeah.
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 I mean, around racism allegations, it's really interesting because I think that people have a certain, I don't know what you'd call it, like a disposition, I guess, for a certain kind of white person. And you could, this is just a behavior you can just straight up unlearn. This doesn't have to be a permanent feature of anybody's psychology, but it can be because some people just don't want to think, you know. My grandfather always quoted that Bertrand Russell quote. He had a book about how to understand like non-Euclidean space, because typically we think of space as being, you know, like you can cube it out, so you can have a foot by foot space, and in that space nothing can occupy the same like space. And it actually it's funny because space-time doesn't really work like that. It doesn't follow those kinds of typical principles that we think of in our minds when we understand things implicitly. Like if I get up and I take this many steps, I will be on the other side of the room. It's not that simple. And it's just very fascinating because like he said, like some people would rather die than think. In fact, they do. It's something like to that effect. But with you know, with some white people talking about racial issues, like nothing will stick if they don't want it to. It's a little bit like a belief. I'm gonna take it here. I really apologize.
So I don't know. Just real quick, Sherrod. I'm sorry. I don't want to, because I'm not sure. I don't want to miss anything or anybody else miss anything. Your volume seems to kind of be going like down and up.
Yeah, my so I actually have a PC problem that I'm dealing with right now while we're having this conversation. As I talk, my computer's just turning my volume down, and I'm manually turning it back up.
I'm hearing that. That's kind of crazy.
Yeah, I apologize for that. I literally don't know what to do about it. It's a problem I have.
Do you think maybe restarting will help, or
I have this like every stream for some reason. It's just happening really crazy right now. So I genuinely, I've looked it up. Like I've tried to look into it. I have no idea how that even works.
Fair enough. Well, yeah, I mean, hopefully you get that worked out, but like, yeah, I just didn't want anybody to miss what you were saying because you're kind of dipping down pretty low. And I'm like, what?
Yeah. Hang on. Let me just get real into it with everybody.
So here is like, this is the kind of the beginning of this 2v2 debate with these, with Jim the Casual and then his friend. You know, this is like right after Organized Chaos and I had kind of like met up for the first time. I think, yeah, we'd started the initiative already. We'd been doing it for, I guess, a month or whatever. And like I was supposed to go on his show and just kind of chat. And then he's like, yeah, I got a debate after you're going to be on. But then before I came on, he was like, actually, this guy has a second person. Do you want to do this too? And I was like, yeah, fuck it. You know, and, you know, I started out not being somebody that expected to debate. I didn't think I was going to be any good at it. You know, I thought my anxiety would get the better of me and stuff. But this was this pretty revealing.
And I think one of the major points that he brought up was the Ghostbusters 2016 film.
Yeah,
was like kind of like it was kind of like the tipping point for where we were like, oh, companies are just going more for like
Ryan's taking a back seat.
The wokeness and stuff like that. Like that was his opinion on it. Do you agree with that? Like the quality of films have gone down since then, or do you think they are still like doing about the same as they were before?
It's honestly about the same. It's not any big difference. Ghostbusters 2016 was one of these meh movies that I find a lot of people like Critical Drinker and I don't know if Neurotic's done anything on Ghostbusters 2016. I'd be shocked. But a lot of these guys just whinge over it like
Almost
incessantly.
Yeah.
And the movie came out like, what, 6 years ago? And yeah. I don't see how that's
I have an opinion on that. What I think happened with Ghostbusters 2016 is a certain, like, yeah, there was definitely a shift that happened with that movie. And just, you know, right out the gate, I think it sucks. I hate that fucking movie. Like, I couldn't get through it. But yeah, I don't think the shift was in the film industry as much as, I mean, yes, there's been a shift in the film industry, but I think that what you just described as far as like what Drinker described is really
a shift also in YouTube film commentary, which started focusing on this word woke as, you know, something to put into the algorithm, and it goes in the algorithm, it goes into titles, and people click on it because it means whatever whoever's reading it or hearing it wants it to mean.
Well, then we should define the term right now. That way there's no more confusion going.
So yeah, right here is probably one of my favorite moments of like doing content. Just because, yeah, I don't remember if I cut it off in this clip, or if I have to use the next clip to show you the full thing, but absolutely we should.
What does woke mean to you?
I don't think it means anything. What does it mean to you guys?
Well,
yeah, like that. It actually was kind of cut off, but there was just a prolonged fucking thick silence after I said that, where they're just like, they couldn't fucking compute it. You know what I mean? Like, so my girlfriend has sent me what might help you out with your audio thing, because she looked something up.
Oh my god, amazing.
Yeah, she's pretty amazing like that. Well, okay, she hasn't sent it yet. She said she was going to. But yeah, there's that. And it gets, you know, it gets sillier from there. I'll say that. Let's see. Okay. Yeah.
7
what I think
sisters,
is happening
so
right now is
growing
it's just
up,
getting auto adjusted. Let me see if I can fix this.
So he's now they're gonna describe what woke means. These guys are.
All right, let's have it.
This is this is another big realization for me. It was just like, oh my god, you guys really like I uploaded a part of a conversation I had with Pillar of Garbage recently, and it's called anti-fandom is just vibes. You know what I mean? Because like this is what I mean. Like they don't really put any thought into this. It really is just some vibes that they have.
You know, well, grew up in a very feminist household.
I'm sorry.
I'm okay. What is that?
No, not.
He said he has like 7 sisters or some shit, and he grew up in a very feminist household. So
Not because of the feminist, just living with 7 other women at the same time. Like, I am sorry.
The first rule of living with 7 sisters is you are always wrong. You know, I saw a whole feminism thing, and it was annoying at first, but I'm of the position now that's just everybody needs to do what they're gonna do, right?
Okay. Yeah.
You know, freedom of choice. And I think wokeness pushed that originally. Like it was feminism, you know, gay marriage, like all these different freedoms, right? That they wanted. And that's great, right? Everyone should be free, right? I'm a libertarian, so, you know, everyone should be free to do what they are gonna do, you know? What they believe is right, that's all we can do. But now it's kind of shifted to the point where now it's leaning a little, it's like the pendulum is swinging. It's swung from one way where things were restricted, now everything's free, and now it's swinging the other way.
Yeah, we're speaking in really general, like general nebulous terms at this point, man. Like, what does that mean? Free? It was free, now it's swinging. Like, I need to understand, like, something I can grab onto here.
Okay. If I may.
Yeah.
Okay.
So yeah, it I'll pause there. Did you?
Yeah, you had a real pair of philosophers on your hands here, it seems.
I mean, I've seen many examples of people trying to define woke that don't do much better. You know what I mean? It's pretty amazing that word, like Bob and I did a whole stream on it. In fact, it was a follow-up to this debate, because funny thing was, after Jim the Casual said the N-word later on in the debate, and I called him on it, and because people had been messaging me saying, dude, he is shit-faced drunk. I did not realize it at first. And then people were telling it to me, and I was like, oh my God, he is drunk, isn't he? Or something. You know what I mean? Like, and it seemed to be getting progressively worse. My friend was like, you should just call him out on that shit. And, I was like, I will if I need to. And I kind of held that in my back pocket. And then he drops the N-word just as a move, basically. Like I don't know what the fuck he was thinking.
Yeah, but the Boschite Hail Mary, it seems.
Yeah, kind of. It was that a little bit. But at least with Vosh, I'm not going to defend the use of the N-word by a white guy. That's not what I'm doing. But what I'm saying is, like, Vosh had, however misguided, and it was very misguided, Vosh did have a fucking strategy behind it that he was trying to employ. this guy, I don't think did. But yeah, and that's when I was like, you know, man, you're too fucking drunk, dude. Like, you're gonna regret this tomorrow. I don't feel right. Like, I feel like this is kind of like unethical for us to continue on, you know, with you impaired like this and stuff. And then after that, the dude literally quit YouTube for a while. Like, he had a streaming partner or whatever that they did streams together, and like a couple of days later, his partner had announced that Jim was like taking time off, and they was going to change the name of the stream to just be the one guy now. And it was like, holy shit, did I make this guy quit YouTube? But yeah, but he did actually come back eventually and was commenting in Bob's chat or under Bob's other debates, talking shit. And I was like, you know what? I was going to be nice to this guy because I didn't know if part of his problem was that he had a substance abuse issue, and I wasn't going to just like continue to milk talking shit on him or anything.
Sure, yeah.
Go back up later and talk shit for no reason. Sure. And then we did this stream where we like looked at, you know, just the function of woke, you know, in the algorithm and in video titles and stuff like that, and how you know, I mean, I know maybe it's pedestrian, and maybe people think about this more than I realize, or they're fully on board with this stuff, but like, that word has gotten way too much traction for not really meaning anything consistent to you know what I mean?
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. Sounds like your volume maybe is leveled out, maybe.
Oh, I doubt it. No, it's it auto adjusts it when I talk. It's something to do with one of the applications I'm running. It's OBS or it's my browser. It's something. In order to fix it, I probably have to restart my PC. So
it might be. So you've got OBS going, and then
yeah.
I bet it is. I bet it is something to do with two different programs that are trying to use your microphone.
Yeah, it's probably OBS. I've been having this problem on and off every now and again, but yeah, you know, I'll just keep trying to manage it. If it's not too annoying for you guys, then.
Okay, so my girlfriend sent it to my phone. She could have sent it to Discord, would have been much better, but that's okay. So it says, so go to, have you tried settings, privacy, select microphone, and then allow access to the microphone on this device?
Yeah, the exclusive access under advanced.
Okay.
Yeah, I did do that, but I think in order for that to be sure to take effect, I think I'd have to restart my PC. So we might just
I mean, I'd be fine with that if you wanted to. Like, I feel like it's worth it if you wanted, depending on how long you wanted to stay on or anything. But it would be worth it to me, to my ears, and you know. But it's
all right, chat. What do you will my chat stick around? Will you guys stay there?
Yeah,
will you stay put? Because yeah, that's the reason why I have OBS open, which is the reason why it's happening. Yeah, which is why, by the way, it happened the other time that you had me on, but not the time that I came on to yell at Tony.
You didn't. You know that was actually really awesome. I don't know if you watched that back, but like we kind of got that dude.
He activated my trap card. What can I say? I mean,
it was pretty subtle, but like we kind of just like, you know, not death by 1,000 cuts, but death by like 17 or so cuts. His arguments, right? Like he just, by the end of it, he was not news about what he was saying, you know, and he was like walking everything back and stuff. It's pretty funny.
I mean, you know, like it's. Now he's what?
Oh, go ahead. What were you gonna say?
Oh, I was just gonna say it's just a silly situation. I'm gonna be right up here, just speaking right into this microphone. So I hope everybody can catch me, even if I'm dealing with this problem over here. I don't know, but
I mean, yeah.
No, it's just funny guy. I don't know. I have this problem a lot where I have those kinds of conversations, and I feel like, you know, like, man, I went to school for this, you know, and like I haven't stopped studying in the, you know, decade that I've been out of school. Like,
what is it that you went to school for exactly?
I studied literature, like literary critique, and so like a critique of basically any text, film script, to you know, we did graphic novels at one point, like Alan Moore. Shakespearean plays, like all kinds of shit. So I just feel very ready to talk to people about their mode of critiquing art, basically. And it almost feels a little unfair. Like I've actually kind of stopped arguing with people who I know personally about things. If they give me an opinion and I think that, you know, they've made a mistake or something, I just go, oh, that's interesting. You know, that's neat. That's cool.
Yeah.
It's cool that you think that. But like, I don't know, dude. If I'm getting into the Thunderdome with somebody, then that's just how it's gonna be.
Okay, so what I have here is actually a later edit based on that follow-up of Jim the Casual showing up, and so it's me and Bob addressing the follow-up and the previous situation with him and his nonsense. But
well, why are you going to challenge me to a debate and not know? Like, they obviously wanted to talk to me about stuff, but then they didn't have any like research behind it, and then you're drunk.
well, and I think we can answer that today, honestly. There's a lyric of a song that I really like, and it goes,
Is it coincidence that the craziest fools have the strongest belief that they're right?
yeah, I mean, it's essentially expressing the, you know, the Dunning-Kruger effect.
Kind of live a bit of a very walled off kind of existence when it comes to these type of things. But from what I've gathered from, you know, different pieces of media, YouTube responses, things like that.
So what he's gathered from YouTube.
How do I put this? Popular term for woke is raising perceived groups that are at a disadvantage to a higher level and promoting them more, i.e., you know, blacks, Asians, the other races,
blacks,
That is
Asians,
the way he's phrasing it. Yeah.
the gays, all that, and putting them on a plateau and making them the highlight of the conversation.
What in God's holy name are you blathering about?
So, you know, that's a little bit of, I guess, bad faith of me, because he almost has, you know, kind of like he's going in the right direction, I guess, right? With what I guess equity means is what he's really talking about. And inclusion, equity, DEI, and whatnot. I don't know. What do you think?
You know, this, like, basically from the beginning, it's been the kind of mission of right-wing provocateurs to produce guys like this.
Yes.
You know, the goal of like every right-wing radio host 15 years ago who was talking about like hiring quotas and this and that, you know, was to produce this exact landscape where a ton of guys, for whatever reason, do the Charlie Kirk thing. I don't know if you're familiar with this, but like Charlie Kirk claims that he wasn't able to go to West Point, as I recall, get his scholarship to West Point because it was taken by somebody. I think sometimes he says a black woman or a woman of color.
Did they have like a face to head ratio that he just didn't meet, or what?
Yeah, I think it's like gums to teeth ratio. The obviously that's, first of all, if it was true, not something it's even possible for him to know. But it's not true because that's not how that works. And also but you can kind of see like why a guy like that thinks that way. Like, okay, how esoteric do I want to get with this? I can get real weird with it. Basically, the function of this, there's a phrase from Du Bois called the wage of whiteness. It's essentially the idea that, like, if you got like a white guy who's real down on his luck, he can point over to a black guy and be like, well, at least I'm not like one of them, such and such, you know, let's just say black people. For lack of a more I don't know, historically provocative term from the life of one William Edward Burghardt Du Bois. But the point being that a guy like that fears equity because he fears being attacked, right? And that fear only exists because of kind of the threat that equity poses to mediocrity, and because of the benefit to mediocrity that racism provides. So it's you know, to borrow a phrase from a fantastic thinker of our time, it's like a little game, you know? You got people on one side saying this and people on the other side saying the same thing. Sorry, that's an old Roosh V reference. Nobody's gonna get that fucking joke. I'm sorry.
You're kind of blowing my mind because like I hadn't really put that together in that way. Like it hasn't clicked until right now that it's not a coincidence that like all of these guys are fucking, you know, generally talentless, you know, just unintelligent, you know, average at best, you know, kind of intellect, right? Like it's not coincidence. It's the feature. It's part of the machine.
Right. I mean, not that this is universally the case, but just on average, like the difference between somebody who says like I'm proud to be black and somebody who says I'm proud to be white is like thinking, or rather refusing to be ashamed versus holding something over other people, which is also why there's not a straight pride, you know? Like gay pride is, hey, we refuse to be ashamed, we refuse to be maltreated, discriminated against, you know, the whole we're here and we're queer, get used to it thing is what that is. But when you have another group of people, that emotion serves a very different purpose in their psychology. If they're not discriminated against, I talk a little bit about this in the Wolfenstein video, actually. If you're not actually a minority group being discriminated against, then that kind of like pride that would otherwise feed like a sense of justice can get hijacked. And all of a sudden it becomes about needing to lean on your race because you got nothing else to be fucking proud of. Which is like that famous which comic panel is it? The famous comic panel where the guy is like, why is it that all of these like, you know, so-called like specimens of the white race look like you? Where is your chin?
Oh, that's from Preacher. Yeah.
Yeah, there you go. Not as much of a comics person myself, but you see what I'm saying? Like that the need to be proud of something like that. It's also why a lot of them fear being emasculated, not to be all Emma Vigilant about it. But
no, it's all good.
It is.
It's not
that's
something
why
I relate to. I've never like been one to like have like an insecurity about any of that, you know, about being a man or anything like that. You know, it's just not something I've really, you know, put any real thought into or anything. It's you know. Yeah, it's been bizarre to try to get in the head of some of these guys that, you know, because I don't know if you've heard me say before, but I am on the autism spectrum, so it's like I'm not just the average, you know, kind of a white dude. I do have you know, got a little bit of a not average about me, you know, and it's kind of put me in a bit of a outsider perspective all my life, to where, you know, I could kind of mask and be in the in group if I choose to be. When I used to be when I was younger and I cared to do that, I did it when I could. Now I literally try to stay out of that as much as possible.
Yeah. Well, and that's the secret, right? Most white guys are like that. Actually, there's a phrase in this for this in feminism. It's called the mythical norm. The idea of a totally able, right? Not just like neurologically, mentally, physically, everything. Totally able, white, cisgender, completely heterosexual, upper class white guy, just down the line, a person who has every privilege that you can think of. There aren't that many of those guys. So theoretically, we got a lot in common.
Yeah. Like if everybody stops trying to appeal to what they believe the norm is, when they probably have a kind of silly idea of that in the first place, and just kind of like, you know, focus on accepting people's unique qualities, we probably realize how much, that we actually have in common. It's
And here's another thing, by the way. Sorry, I don't know if people are ready for another mind freak, but
I absolutely
the whole anti-diversity thing with these guys is also like a fear of inadequacy, because if you are presented narratives of like overly dominant successful depictions of people, you know, like you, right? Not only does that start to feel normal, it starts to feel expected. There's a difference between average and norm, right? Like, what's the norm? What does a normal person look like versus the average person? There's a famous PSA, I think Dwayne Rock Johnson was in it, where he talks about like what does the average American look like, or the average human being. And he mentioned, you know, just for me to make this point, right? Like, let's say, I'm not actually sure where this statistic is now, but at certain points in history, the majority of human beings have technically been women, right? And, you know, a lot of people, you know, a significant number of the human race, again, not 100% sure on the exact number, but they live in Asia. So the idea that the average person might be more likely to be an Asian woman is not insane, right? But the norm is something else. So when the norm starts correcting to the average, you will feel inadequate, you know? Like Julia says something in chat that I think is really interesting. It's the penis size thing. The funny thing about that is that you can be insecure, right? There's a whole this literally came up in one of my women's and gender studies classes, so I'm like getting the chance to flex something that a professor of mine taught me like a decade ago. The way that works, right, is that the norm is higher in dick size than the average. That's it's an insecurity machine, and that's a lot of our culture with stuff for white guys.
Wow.
But they cling to it because the thing originally gave them power, but because it's, or not power real, but the feeling of power, right? The feeling of appreciation, the feeling of value. But because it's a maladaptive relationship, it has hurt them over time. So they're hugging tightly to this thing that's hurting them, and they won't let go. And that is what psychologically is going on there, basically.
Wow. That's I'm going to have to probably clip a lot of what you're saying here and just compile them into like a Chariot compilation or something.
Yeah, hopefully with I'm trying to speak up with the mic difficulty.
It's been super dramatic, really. So in a few minutes.
Yeah, I have some public speaking training, so I can project. You know, when we talk to an auditorium. I don't usually do it because, you know, I don't want to blow the mic out, destroy people's ears, but
so
it needs must.
Yeah, I don't know that I'm showing you anything here that is going to be like, I don't know. It's more just funny than anything. I think watching Jim kind of do his thing. Yeah, so like what he says, when he describes what he thinks woke means, I just find it like, how do you not realize what you're saying is that you don't? It's that literally it's any perspective you don't understand and literally have no experience with, and yet that is the thing that you were so against. It's bizarre to me that, I don't know, they can get so close to some understanding and then still miss it.
Very walled off kind of existence when it comes to, you know, blacks, Asians, the other races.
And I imagine that's where a lot of people did. But what's the problem with that? Oh wait, I missed the important part. Whoops.
Kind of live a bit of
ethics and understand this and all this. Okay, and it's all fucked up now for some reason. All right, so moving on. Why is Jim so confident in all this? And you obviously see what the commonality is, right? Chat?
Yeah.
It's woke. The word woke is in all of these, whether or not they enjoyed it or not. They make sure to keep that word in there. And why is that? A lot of you probably are aware, but I think it's worth, you know, getting into a little bit of specifics and understanding this a little bit better, because of how the YouTube algorithm works. And this goes to speak to what Jim was saying in that clip where he learned what he knows about wokeness from YouTube.
Kind of live a bit of a very walled off kind of existence when it comes to, you know, blacks, Asians, the other races.
And I imagine that's where a lot of people did. But what's the problem with that? YouTube is not like, it's not a meritocracy. It's not like the best information is what gets seen the most. It's not the most popular information. And as we talk about here too, I mean, might as well just say it rather than watch a video of me saying it. But like, you know, I feel like it's, I don't know, we're kind of fighting an uphill battle with a populace that doesn't even understand how this platform works, right? Like, I get people, and I'm sure you've gotten them too. Anytime you've talked about Drinker, for example, who are just like, whoa, he's got 2 million subscribers and you don't, you know? And it's like, wait, man, do you actually think that is something that is relevant to this at all? Because holy shit, because, you know, and they do think that. They think that it's a meritocracy. They think that, you know, if I was better at being right with my opinions or whatever, I guess, then I would have more than 2 million subscribers or something. And it's concerning. It's frustrating because that is not how it works at all.
Yeah, I mean, it fits perfectly with the anti-diversity sentiment as well, because if you just treat the either current, or as many of them do, an imagined past as being totally meritocratic based on whatever the perceived norm of that present or past is, then basically everything in your mind will have to conform to that. Otherwise, it's an infringement, which is why people get really, really, you know, I hate to go Charlie Kirk again, but he had that comment where he talked about how he would feel nervous if a pilot on a plane he was flying on was black. That is that sentiment, the suspicion of the qualifications of people who, you know, would have been hired by any company that had any, you know, remotely any kind of DEI practices in hiring. With that kind of thing, the assumption is that there would just be some sort of dearth of qualification there.
Right.
And the difficult thing is that in order to address that kind of problem systemically is you kind of have to lift with both hands, right? Like you need to educate more people of more groups and, you know, help them get started to be qualified, and also, you know, make sure that they have the opportunities to do that kind of work, which is something that comes up a lot in the women in tech kind of discussion. Also with between actors and actresses and getting paid for screen time, stuff like that. That was a big, as they say, a red pill for me when I was learning about the wage gap, is just seeing like the way that like actresses will sometimes be in a film that is more about their character with more screen time, getting paid less than somebody who sometimes even is a smaller name, but is a male actor. Crazy stuff. Hollywood is wild. It was a wild place.
Yeah, truly. Yep. I mean, yeah, a lot of followers can be bots. You know, I've got a clip of, you know anything about Sitch and Adam?
Oh, I've seen them around, I suppose.
Are you being real about that, or are you being
I have a video responding to them. Yeah.
Okay.
When they talked to Sam Cedar and were very very intent on misrepresenting something that he said on his show.
I'm surprised they would do that. That's crazy to me that they would do that, because guess what? Bob and I, Organized Chaos, also talked with them at one point.
Really?
Yeah. It's stupid. They were really stupid, man. Like, you know, they made a mistake, a couple of mistakes there. There's a whole story behind it about like how we ended up doing better on their show than I think they expected us to do, because the way that they do things, and you know, so when I started YouTube, I was doing it primarily. I wanted to focus on Ethan Van Sciver. He was the first guy that I was like, all right, fuck this guy, I want to debunk him. And basically the first video I ever did on him, suddenly Adam Friended was in my comments, and I had like a few hundred subscribers, and he was like, hey, you want to come on to our show and talk about this or whatever? And I was just kind of like blown away by that. Like, why would this guy with this, you know, large platform And luckily, I had a friend, a guy by the name, his channel name is One Species. And he was like, yeah, he's been around for a while, and he'd already been through this stuff. And so what Adam Friended does is he goes around and he finds people that, I mean, you know, if I can, I guess, say this about myself, that he looks for people that are possibly going to be a problem for their kind of like their narrative and the people that they run defense for, and they try to, like, seems like they just try to shut them down pretty early on. And he does that by being friendly to a degree and being like, hey, you know, not like let's debate or whatever, let's just talk. And then you know, luckily I didn't fall for it, but he brings people on. He'd done it to One Species, and he does it under the guise of like, we're gonna watch some videos together or whatever. And that's what he came to Organized Chaos' stream after the initiative had started, and we were talking about rhetoric one night, and he showed up, and I think he just didn't know he didn't remember me. I changed my channel name as well. And he invited Bob, and then we ended up going on there. And the whole time I'm telling Bob ahead of time, I'm like, dude, at some point they're going to spring a debate on us, is basically what they're going to do. They're going to kind of ambush. They're going to try to pin all these crazy, you know, leftist and cartoonish leftist, you know, policy prescriptions and stuff on us and make us defend them. And we just got to be prepared for that. And we were, and it was pretty fun. My whole thing is that, like, I really struggle with, if I think somebody's a piece of shit, I have a hard time hiding it. You know, let's just, I guess, an autism thing. I don't know, but
yeah.
And I think Adam Friend is a huge piece of shit, and like, so I was just like biting my tongue the whole time and like waiting for like the moment when it was like, okay, now I can just let loose.
Yeah, you gotta, as certain people say, you gotta hide your power levels sometimes, just to give things time to develop.
Well, it wasn't that frustrating, man. They're really dumb, and like whenever they, you know, they get into a corner and they're kind of like not doing well, like they think they should be, or where they're not getting us on to kind of freak out or whatever the fuck their goal is, by doing the bad faith shit they do. They'll, you know, Adam just resorted straight up to, "Are you a groomer?" Like, and I was like, "Oh, fuck you, dude! What the fuck would you say that
Christ.
for?" Like,
yeah, it's so low effort too. I mean, there's not a lot going on there.
Yeah, but I mean, the mistake they really made was they wanted to talk about the MCU, and in particular, MCU. And so they're like, let's talk about WandaVision and why she, you know, gets to be a horrible evil villain and everybody's okay with it. And, you know, you know, within a minute or two, I explained why that's just not even what happens. And that
yeah.
And they're, oh, well, okay, let's move on to She-Hulk then. And then, you know, we stuck on She-Hulk for a little while, but I still was able to, not the guy you want to fuck with about that type of stuff, really.
Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't argue with you about comics. Jeez.
I'm not good at
it's
much
a valuable skill, by the way, knowing when you're out of your depth, just not crossing the bridge, just going, you know what, that's okay. You can have that one.
It really is. It's fun. It's fun, and it's also frustrating to deal with these people. And I wish that there was like, because, you know, there's ramifications of even having that kind of debate, right? Like, it doesn't just end when the debate's over. You know, doing this stuff, you get there. I still get there, you know, people showing up in my comments or whatever, mentioning that debate, and it's like, wow, fucking let it go, dude. It's just, you know, this content life we live, apparently. I think I'm kind of rambling because I have to pee really bad, so
I got
I'll
you.
go do that.
Yeah, I'll hold down the fort.
Cool. Well, yeah, you do that, and I will be right back momentarily.
All right, everybody. It's chariot time. Chariot in full effect here. Let's go. Yeah, I apologize for the audio problems tonight. I think I might have found a fix, but I would have to restart literally everything on my PC. So that'd be a bit of a problem. Be a bit of an issue. Not fun, but I guess hopefully for future Chariot stream viewers, hopefully I'll get that sorted out for you guys, and we won't have that problem anymore. It's been bothering me lately. Keeps happening. Also makes recording stuff really annoying. Their misreading of She-Hulk was hilarious and also painfully cringe. Can I say something? You know how a lot of guys were like really mad about the She-Hulk show, which I have not seen. I just want to put this out there. Not really that interested in it. But I have seen the scene where she twerks with I think it's Megan Thee Stallion is the musical artist who's in that scene. Again, I've only seen it like a super quick clip of it. But are these men really heterosexual? Are we sure? Because I saw She-Hulk twerk and I was kind of like, I can't be mad about this show. In fact, can she do it again? Can they work that into the next season? I'll watch the show. If somebody messages me and says there is a She-Hulk twerk in every episode of the new season, I will watch it. And that is a promise. And I will watch it and I will review it on my channel. And I don't usually watch stuff like that. I mean, I watched Luke Cage and Jessica Jones back when those shows were a bit newer, but how do you think the Chuds will react to the upcoming Batman animated series called The Caped Crusader? Probably do like a little return to tradition thing about Kevin Conroy not being with us anymore. You know, find a female character from it who's woke now. I don't know. It's not that they're very creative. It's that they're very persistent. Sorry, I paused there and stopped talking because I was thinking about She-Hulk's ass. That's my bad. Yeah, having a normal one over here. I don't, other people just seem to have a better eye for like CGI in films and shows than I do. Some people said that the CGI in that show didn't look fantastic. Not something that my eye is really trained to spot. I've never done work on that kind of stuff, but I will say, nice. Yeah, I'm probably real quiet on for my stream as well. That's unfortunate. I'm so sorry, guys. I'm so sorry. I'm doing my best. I'm right up here against the mic. Hello. 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 Hello.
Are we ooh-ooing? What's going on?
Sorry, I'm just tormenting chat. I'm just messing with them.
What are we talking about here? Oh yeah. Some good conversations here. When will you think that Warner Brothers do a Wonder Woman animated series? I don't know that. Is that stuff you cover? I don't think that's really your.
No, I was talking about the She-Hulk show.
I see.
Fielding some questions. I said I didn't think that a lot of the fandom grifter guys were. I really don't think that. Maybe it's like a Nick Fuentes situation. Where is it like, is he completely gay? Is he just like so misogynistic that he kind of comes off gay? Is he like bi, but he just really hates women? Like what's going on there? He's got such twink energy that it's a little bit more decisive.
I don't know.
But
it's like I try to avoid that, that type of a framework because I know that it can be problematic to kind of just like go, oh, this hateful person must be in the closet queer or something. And
yeah. Well, I just mean that, like, you remember when they were doing like content about how terrible the She-Hulk show was, right?
Yeah.
And there was a lot of like memes and negative feedback on the twerking scene.
Oh yeah.
But I like that scene because I think women are attractive.
Right. Thank you. I have said so many times, like, and since I've been looking at this stuff, like, guys, I come from the era of like. We used to pause and rewind those couple of scenes in like Wild Things and what was it? That other movie that was like it was like just a couple of girls kissing in a movie and like in high school and middle school we were like oh my god like, and now you a couple of women kissing or something and these guys are like oh woke like, what the fuck happened, fellas?
It's so crazy. Yeah. No, I remember having like a friend who like had like certain time codes and like the DVDs for like American Pie or Beer Fest like memorized when we were younger. That was a different era. It was a different time.
Yeah, I mean, I think there was something that kind of awakened in me in that one scene in She-Hulk where she like carries that guy. I was like, oh no, something's.
I've only seen the twerking scene. I haven't watched the show. I've just watched that clip a few times.
There's
I
like,
find it funny. I don't know.
with a guy. He's like actually pretty muscular, built kind of guy. But there's like at a certain point, she's like carries him from the couch or something like in her arms. And it's like, oh dear. Something is awakening. I don't know. But yeah, I'm sure you've noticed like the very, it's pretty obvious, honestly, the 1-to-1 almost of like the Great Replacement, and like, oh, they're replacing these characters with, woke versions or whatever, right?
Yeah, it comes off a bit like that.
Great Replacement-y?
Yeah, a little.
I think so.
Yeah. Not fantastic, I gotta say.
So there's one thing that I wanted to show you, just because it's like it's a Jeremy Griggs thing, and I know that you're just all about him lately, right? Like that's your entire focus. No, totally kidding, but it is interesting because it's like from the first debate that I had with that. His name was, what was it? Kev T-Rev. That was it. T-Rev, the game dev or something like that. He's a big Geeks and Gamers guy. Also just very polite and pretty cool to talk to generally. And I learned a lot. But like, there's this right here that I didn't even notice it when it happened. This was in, I'd say 2022, fall of 2022 or so, summer. Had this debate, and there's a lot of stuff I took from it. But this particular thing that kind of got, I don't know, it escaped me until about a year ago when I was watching this stuff again. I was like, oh my God, he just admits this. So yeah.
Opportunity. I think you have a really great YouTube channel. The production quality is really good, even though I really don't agree with a whole lot that you say. Congratulations on 5K subs. That's exciting. I want to clarify, when I say that I'm part of the Fandom Menace, I basically just kind of saw that as the best way to describe like the conglomerate of YouTube channels basically that appear on Friday Night Tights, like Geeks and Gamers, Nerdrotic, Young Ripa, Heel versus Babyface, because technically Jeremy has disavowed the Geeks and Game. Jeremy has disavowed the Fandom Menace publicly. So I understand like there's that controversy there, but I still just thought it was like the best way to describe, the overall group of YouTube channels. And now I am technically a member of the Geeks and Gamers team, but my opinions are my own. I do not claim to come here and represent like the official opinion of Geeks and Gamers or represent anybody.
And isn't this just like the way of the alt-right too, by the way? Like yes, I'm literally a member of this group, but like I'm not representing and I'm not necessarily holding the views of this group that I'm a member of. Like
it's literally a meme that they have. Disavow.
Else's opinion or anything like that.
Just you mentioned something I kind of threw me off, is like Jeremy has disavowed the Fandom Menace, but he's still in the same circle of people, right? They're still all on Friday Night Tights together. He's still saying the same stuff about Star Wars and Marvel and everything that the Fandom Menace like. So what is really the practical purpose of disavowing the Fandom Menace if like nothing is actually changing about what he's doing?
Oh, the reason that he gives is that apparently he saw too much like extremism within like the Fandom Menace among like things that fans were saying, and he didn't want to be like held responsible for any of that. He said, I'll be responsible for Geeks and Gamers, but not that. And so I guess he maybe saw it as too much to keep up with, something like that.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, I guess I kind of see that. I don't know. I'm more of the mind that if I was part of something that I was like suddenly like, wow, this is getting kind of more hostile and harmful than I really care for, rather than just go, I don't claim this label anymore. I would completely disconnect from the people that are associated with that label, because otherwise it would just seem kind of hollow to me. But that's just me. So whenever it happened, the thing that stuck out to me was obviously the weird, I disavow, but also just like you're still doing the exact same thing. But like the part that escaped me somehow was just really the gravity of what he admitted to. of Jeremy had said he recognized the extremism in the geeks and gamers community.
Yeah.
You know what I
Of
mean?
course.
In the Fandom Menace. And it's like they always try to, kind of like dodge those types of claims and act like, oh, there's blah blah, there's not, that's not. And it just, I don't know, it's pretty potent to me to just realize, especially in hindsight, that I missed it in the debate. I should have fucking nailed that shit. But anyway, you live and learn,
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, it's like I've heard Richard Spencer disavow the alt-right. Like what are we talking about? Like, what does that mean?
Yeah, Gavin McGinnis
never
stepped down as the leader of the Proud Boys, right?
Yeah, never. What I'll say is, like, never think that these people don't know that they're doing something wrong. They do.
Right.
They do. Playing dumb is part of it. It's the whole point is to have a kind of implausible deniability.
Unless you're Jim the Casual, then I think in his case he's just kind of dumb and drunk. But no, the people that are like in the leadership positions, I definitely believe fully know, especially. But like even a lot of them that aren't, right? Like, but for example, this is just a completely speculative. I have no real evidence of this, but that T-Rev guy, maybe I just want to believe this, but I don't feel like, at least at that point, he really was. I think he believed in all of the fucking kind of obfuscating, logically flawed justifications for agreeing with things that like Geeks and Gamers says. Like the main thing I took from that was like really, really eye-opening was realizing that he said that you have to be conscious, because he's talking about isms, right? Like an ism and a phobe and an ist or whatever. They love to say that shit now. But he said that you have to be conscious of hate or bigotry in order to be a bigot or whatever. Like that's something you have to decide to do, basically. And I was like, wait, what? Like you don't. You really don't. Like you don't have. I mean, yes, there's a type of hate that like you're literally deciding to do it and stuff like that. But like I'd argue that most hate probably isn't that. I think it's just a collection of. I mean, it's obviously just a collection of biases that you are unchecked and you just kind of go with them and assume truth in these. And yeah, but I don't know, that was just really eye-opening to me to realize that that's how bigots justify bigotry. Because there's some of them that obviously they know they don't want to be called a bigot, you know what I mean? Because they know that that's a bad thing, right? And yet they are bigots, clearly, to us, you know what I mean? So like, what's going on there? And I think that's what it is that they justify it in those types of ways. What do you think?
Yeah, I mean, I think you're right, but I think that I do also think the other end of this is kind of that, when you look at the rhetoric, right? The fact of the denial, or the rhetoric of the denial, I should say, is affirmed by the fact of the lack of consequences. Instead of racism or sexism, imagine that we were talking about alleging something illegal, something criminal, right? If they were to be prosecuted for that, the state could pull, their Discord logs and look at the evidence, and they could be convicted in a court of law. And it would be, the defenses that they employ for these things would not work for those things, because it would be a question of evidence before a jury of their peers and before a judge who would not, fall for these kinds of flimsy excuses. Right. So it's really the subject matter as well that lends a different kind of deniability, and the consequences. And I think that's also why they're so fierce about issues around the fact that freedom of speech covers these kinds of things. Because I think there's an understanding that if it didn't, they'd be in trouble, right? Like a person who's never said a racist thing doesn't fear that infringement, And by the way, I'm not saying that I don't support free speech. I'm just saying that like it's suspicious, I guess, to have a preformed ideology that defends you against for example, your right to say the N-word, Like,
well, I mean, never mind the fact that like, they very almost without fail, they or to the man, I suppose, they do they say they believe in free speech, and except for when it comes to things that they don't like, and it's they can't be self-honest, I guess, or just honest in general with the fact that, like, okay, yes, everybody wants free speech up until the point when they feel like something is no longer favorable for whatever your ethics and values are, right? Like, so for them it's like they just want to fucking silence people because they're political enemies, or they're saying something that makes them uncomfortable. Whereas like, generally I think the reason to limit free speech is for safety and whatnot. So the fire in a crowded theater kind of thing.
It is interesting, like I want to be good faith and uncharitable, I guess, to these people, because I do not believe that they are like, I don't think that they're quote unquote stupid in the way that it might be kind of compelling to sometimes deride them, and they can't be drunk all the time, like maybe when they jump into a call with you, but it, to a certain extent, it is a little a little bit of a question of the fact that they kind of get boiled in these beliefs. Human beings literally adopt new opinions and worldviews based on who they are around, factually. So, like, if you hang out in certain communities and slowly transition into other communities, you'll kind of be inundated with certain views, and that's the norm for you, and that's your perspective, and you will be caught out, showing your ass in a call at some point where you just go, hasn't everybody, tweeted this or that at one point in time, and everybody else will go, no, that's not normal, actually. That's not a universal experience. That's just a couple of you guys.
Right.
I don't know if I'm making any sense, but I guess my kind of impulse here.
Absolutely, you are. It's what's kind of I guess mind numbing at this point is that we've just had a lot of these. We've had so much time to analyze this stuff now. It seems to have. It's obviously not gone by fast, like since the kind of rise of the alt-right and MAGA and Trump and everything to where we are now. That's been a long slog, but it also feels like it's kind of just burned by. I don't know. We're we get plenty of opportunities to see these things play out and study how they go, how different people make the claims and arguments and back them up or not. Yeah, it's a whole thing, man. So seemed like I had some questions I was going to ask earlier, and now I don't know. Maybe I should have written them down. What about you? Do you have any questions, comments, concerns?
I had something kind of serendipitous that I thought I'd bring up, because initially I was gonna join you. I ended up being a few minutes late because I had to go answer the door. I got a package.
Oh shit!
And people on your end won't be able to see this, but people on my end can see it on camera, because I got the camera to work here. But this is a book called "The Reactionary Mind: Conservatism from Edmund Burke to Donald Trump" by Corey Robin.
Oh wow!
The New Yorker called it famously the book that predicted Trump. So it's kind of a political analysis and psychology of reactionary principles and beliefs. So really, really interesting evaluation of the political landscape. Going to be very useful in the future. So I guess that's something fun I wanted to bring up.
Yeah, let me know how that is. What's interesting is I recently got a book. I just got the digital version, and I think I actually got it on free Audible with it. But How to Be a Fascist, I think it's called.
Interesting.
Which, obviously, I mean, presumably, obviously, it's not actually like pro-fascism. It's actually anti-fascism. But it's, just here's how to do it, I suppose. Kind of like that O.J. Simpson book, maybe. I don't know. Sorry, bad
yeah
joke.
I mean, maybe if
I didn't do it, but if I did,
yeah. Who's the author?
Let me look it up here. It is Michaela Murgia, which doesn't seem to be an American name, I don't think. It's from published in October 2018. The first and only guide to turning your 21st century democracy into a fascist paradise. Democracy is difficult, flawed, and unstable. It involves barely distinguishable political parties taking part in lengthy, overcomplicated, expensive decision-making processes. So it seems to be kind of tongue-in-cheek.
Seems good.
And also, apparently, it ends with a fascistometer to measure the reader's own authoritarian inclinations. That sounds kind of fun.
Yeah, that does sound kind of fun. Would you entertain stream for a moment while I run to the bathroom? Actually, I have to go.
Yeah,
now it's my turn to go pee. Okay, thank you. I appreciate it.
No problem. Hi, Chariot Stream. How you guys doing? I don't know how many of you there are. I don't know anything about you. I want to know you. I want to know what you're like. What do you enjoy besides Chariot streams and videos? Because I enjoy those. But like, what else do you enjoy? What's your dad like? I'd like to meet that dad. Just a little joke there. That's from that old show Tim and Eric. Awesome show. Great job. Anyway, so hey, Chariots viewers. This is my viewers. Everybody wave to each other. Man, I'm really good at this streaming shit. Hello, fellow kids. Do Chuds support January 6th? I mean, generally, yeah, I think so. I mean, Chuds did January 6th. You know what? Here is a thing. Step back and look at the whole timeline here. Some dude who has not played any of these games just had some, based on some vibes, decided that these games are woke, and he started. They're done. This game's done by Sweet Baby. This to be, and then he makes a list, right? And so because of this dude who had not even enough interest in the games to actually fucking play them, right? So he clearly has some incentive to do this that is not the quality of the games themselves, right? I mean, it's just obvious. And what was his incentive? Let's say it's going to be because he's anti-woke, right? So if somebody can just decide something is woke and that he's going to fucking put them on blast and make a list, and then, and any response that comes from them is not enough. You have to go further and further. You're going to, we're going to fucking dig up all your old tweets. We're going to look into all your employees. We're going to fucking, put every single thing you've ever said under a fucking microscope until you fucking show us exactly what you fucking did in each one of these games. That's not a little fucked up to you? It's a little fucked up to me. It is. Let's see. Jeremy Griggs definitely supported January 6th. Yeah, I saw where he was posting about it. He probably isn't even ashamed of it. Hello from Florida, the Wastelands. Yo. No, he's not. Julia, like, honestly, like, you can look these things up. It's actually a good idea to. It's an historic moment, really, to have a president, former president, shitty as he is, being convicted of anything, much less 34 anythings in this case. But it's kind of we're in no man's land now. What happened on January 6th? I think some folks went and got some ice cream or something like that. I don't know.
Yeah, I've heard, by which I mean was lied to, about Antifa storming the Capitol, a global organization with a real established hierarchy and leadership and secret membership, and Antifa.
They just
Folks,
they're
calling them Antifa. A bunch of sick
they don't have
puppies,
any kind of structure. That's just part of the whole, gaslighting, or I don't know.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly.
Have you seen I have a comic book. I have the first 2 issues have come out so far, called I need to get the second issue's review edited down and uploaded, but the first one is up on my channel. It's a comic book called 1/6. It's literally just a what if, basically. What if they won? What if they succeeded on January 6th? And then it's really, really I want to say cool is not the right word, because the creators went through great lengths to they use as much, actual confirmed factual dialogue and information and texts and stuff like that did happen to set up the narrative as far as they possibly could, until they, okay, now we're going to do the creative liberties of like, having them, this is how they managed to make it work in this timeline. Right. And it's fucking kind of terrifying, but also really well done. And yeah, and it's kind of the exactly one of the reasons I love comic books, to be honest, because you can have Superman, or you can have literally a fucking dystopian kind of what if of like, what if the fascism push worked, right? It's good shit. So let's see. Yeah. Oh yeah. That. I thought. Anyways. So yeah. Well, what's up?
Oh,
Yeah, I could find out this year if we're just, cross your fingers.
Yeah.
We're real lucky.
Yeah. What happens if they win? I don't know.
You know what's kind of more scary than like if them doing like another forced push to take over, to take over the presidency or whatever. Like doing violence and taking it by force it's pretty fucking shitty and terrifying to think about that. But like, what if they just win the vote? Like that's kind of more fucked up in a way at this point.
Yeah. What if? This is a good question. What if civil society simply produces its own antithesis? What if there was a certain, to use a word I used earlier, a certain over-determination to this kind of political struggle all along? Well, certainly hard to say. Certain systems might engender certain other structural forces that could potentially produce other certain systems, and if in that case we'd have a real problem, wouldn't we? That sounds like a real McFreaking conundrum.
Like I think I maybe know what you're kind of saying here. Are you saying that it is possible, though not necessarily likely, but it is possible that there could be a counter force to that event that could end up being beneficial, or no?
Oh gosh, I mean, sorry, I just thought of that. You said getting ice cream earlier. I just thought of that one, that famous viral television clip. Wouldn't you like to know, Weather Boy? That kid.
Well, okay, so the reason that I'd asked you on to talk with you originally was about being just like a dirty commie, basically.
Oh yeah,
you know what I mean?
I sure am one of those types.
I'm totally kidding. Yeah,
sorry, one second. I think I have to go deal with something really quickly, if you don't mind. It's just coming up. I'll be right back. Give me like 15 seconds.
I ran her off, guys. I went too hard on the dirty commie joke. Whoopsie. Whoopsie-doo. Oh, by the way, guys.
Welcome to the FAP. Nancy used to do that for me. Handsy Nancy, I called her.
Yeah. That's right.
Like, I don't get offended by shit.
Not at all.
Okay, you the big bad booty daddy.
How is Dick Grayson, no matter who draws him, no matter, like, he's just the hottest. I'm not even gay, man. He's just fucking hot, right? Like, I guess just being named Dick, you're going to just carry that kind of swagger. I don't know what it is, man. He's just fucking sexy. Just saying. It's the glutes. It's the glutes, yeah. I mean, I'm not gay, but I'd be gay for Dick. It's true.
Sorry about that random interruption. We're running around a little bit. It's a big weekend for us over here, so a lot going on.
Do you need to go?
No, I'm okay for right now. My brother's graduation is tomorrow, so I'm meeting up with family and
Chariot's brother.
Yeah.
I was trying to think of what like the brother vehicle to a chariot might be, but I don't have it. So
a caboose. I don't know.
Okay. Fair enough. Yeah.
Where were we? Dirty commies.
Yeah, something about that. Yeah, I think I had said that. Yeah, I don't really remember. I think I was really kind of frustrated about some stuff at discourse I was seeing at the time whenever I reached out to you about that. And I get frustrated by it just like intermittently now and then because, I don't know. I'm a pretty pragmatic person. I'm all about what is going to maximize benefit, for most people, for the most people, well-being for most people. And I'm not opposed to any, radical ideas just on their face or anything like that. But I do become opposed to them whenever there's like not any pragmatism involved, right? And that there's actually like often seems to be from the online left the implications of like being willing to throw certain people under the bus in order to achieve some kind of radical goal. And I'm not cool with that, so like I don't know, that's just a pretty broad conversation honestly about a lot of topics that are in that, I think. So I'm not going to make you answer for all of the weird lefties on the internet or anything.
I will answer for no. I mean,
okay.
The thing is, like the thing about the online left is that it exists kind of across the internet and also nowhere in particular.
Right.
Like a given person's grievances with the online left, if you actually introduce them to like a specific like sect of communists who actually want to form a real life organization and take real government power, or even just publish their own little newspaper, which is what tends to actually happen. When you apply the ideas people have about like the online left to even just online representations of those groups of people, some of the ideas people have about it will stick, and some of them will be disanalogous because what we're really doing is we're generalizing kind of, everybody from like Bernie Sanders onward into kind of a big hodgepodge. There's a lot of ideological deviance there, that
and you said deviance, not deviants, right? Like
oh, I mean, one of those is a badge of honor, and the other one is just a fact of life,
So like when I
appreciate
first,
the deviance.
When I first kind of got onto YouTube, I wasn't really. I wasn't thinking of myself as like a political YouTuber or anything, but I was, just going to talk about whatever I felt like talking about. And politics was certainly on my mind a lot. And so I pretty quickly got pulled kind of like into, the sphere of BreadTube, I guess, which I didn't know was a thing. But like, my first video essentially was Bo of the Fifth Column shared it. And so that, got me on a certain track with my audience. And yeah, and I really had I had no leftist education whatsoever, right? Like I was just somebody who had always considered myself left/liberal because I didn't really know the difference, if there was one. And it was generally just like I still do, coming at things from my values, my ethics, and which is essentially, minimize harm, maximize well-being, and then, yeah, pretty quickly got pulled in these spaces where I'm like around, anarchists and communists and anarcho-communists and all the variations, all the multi-hyphenates and, all that. And I just, I was like, you know what, I'm happy to be here learning from all these. I want to learn everything I can and just kind of make my mind up down the road, I guess. But like for now, I don't see why we all aren't just pushing against fascism, right? Like and I would see these, little, quarrels come up and things that didn't seem to really matter at this point and probably wouldn't matter for, 20 years if we were lucky to move things in that direction. And to my mind, it was just like, why can't these people work together right now? Like, sure, we're going to have to figure some shit out down the road if we can get that far. But like, I don't know. And that always kind of bothered me. And I guess it was just because the right's able to do it. You know what I mean? The right's able Like they know they have some. There's some guys that don't like the fact that there are Nazis and white supremacists, or at least open white supremacists on the right, but they'll work together. You know what I mean? It is frustrating.
Yeah. So there's a couple components to this that I've touched on before. That I think it's great to kind of have as like a blanket acknowledgement. I mean, in the first place, obviously, like I do tend to prefer people being united against far right forces. Just as somebody from one of the multiple groups that the far right tends to kind of take issue with. Yeah, I am not a big fan of falling down on the job in that regard. The reason why the left doesn't do that is because different political forces on the left, different ideologies, different adherents to those ideologies, different members of organizations that are built around those ideologies, they want to kill each other is the thing that nobody will really say. But like the Stalinists and the anarchists, they have an understanding that is usually unspoken, which is that these guys are the thing that is going to be the absolute worst thing in the world in the best case scenario. And it'll be
that's how it played out before.
Kind of. They have an impression of each other based on that. But I think more so like those are just two examples out of a hat.
Sure.
When you hear people talk about certain like left-wing ideas, I guess the best way to say this is like I try not to describe as a particular left-wing label anymore. Like I used to be super hyper specific about that kind of stuff, and I walked away from that because it wasn't helping me. It wasn't helping me understand things. It wasn't helping me do the right thing. It just wasn't helping me. But with that said, I mean, in the way that like somebody might come along to you and be like, Dane, I agree with you about like, economics, these corporations are real bad, but just not too fond of women and black people and native people. You'd probably say, well, hang on, slow your roll there. Like, we don't agree really,
Yeah,
we kind
really
of contextually agree. There's a limited sense in which even somebody like that might, if a Nazi movement took over America, they might hide a Jewish person from the Nazis, and that's a good thing. There are people with problematic beliefs who did things like that, and sure. There will never be a full embrace across the political left. There will only be, I think, situational actions that allow people to work together.
Yeah,
but
I mean that's generally kind of how I've come to see it after fucking 5 years now. Like, and I agreed on the hyper specific hyphenated niche political label thing. Like, I felt pressure after a while, to like choose one or something. You know what I mean? Like and that was really just pressure I was putting on myself, and totally just probably social pressure from the kind of crowd I was around. Seeing it and going, oh, I need to do one of those. And whenever I felt kind of compelled to that degree to like, I need to decide on one, was when I realized, no, I don't need one. Because, from a practical standpoint, I've seen people that identify as this and that or the other, and then other people that also identify as that, and they both disagree with each other that they are both that thing. You know what I mean? So like at a certain point, these labels, you've got even just like in the broad strokes of the political spectrum, you've got the right, which at least most of the time they do recognize they're on the right. But then you've got the kind of center right, center, the Biden, kind of Hillary Clinton, that space there that like think that they are the left, right, and that everybody to the left of them is just crazy people. And then then the left, like the radicals, on the left, they think all those people are actually on the right. You know what I mean? Like it just becomes at a certain point, like, what is the point of even really, I guess labeling these things, because we don't even agree on what the fuck it all means in a lot of cases. So yeah, I don't know.
Yeah, well, there's a quote that I live by, and I mean, I have friends who are just, they're just liberals, right? And it's not, it's not that people can't, have political disagreements, and I try to be as normal as it's possible for someone like me to be about it. But I just don't get too aggro with people, I suppose. But there's a quote that I think of a lot, which is something to the effect of, we call communism the movement to abolish the present state of things. It's not it's not a state of affairs to be established. And what's important about that to me is that I am not envisioning an alternative society that I'm trying to sell you on. People who do that, some of them are well-intentioned. A lot of them are trying to start a cult. That I've noticed on the political left.
I do have a book that like I learned not too long ago that there were a lot of, in the 60s and 70s and stuff, there were a lot of little cults that were sprung up ostensibly around communism.
Well, there was a place called Jonestown that started that way, actually. It's kind of
it's
kind of a sad story.
And like, well, I mean, so but that's kind of like, what I mean. Like, I get what you're saying, and that makes sense to me. But so my whole thing with like communism in particular is like, I don't know if it, I'm willing to try whatever. Clearly capitalism has not worked. It's not going well, guys. So I'm willing to try things, but like the decades and decades of just like deep entrenched anti-communist and just anti-socialist, anti-left, but like at least we've made some headway with socialism to a degree. But like communism, I just don't feel like in the US has a viable, any kind of track. Like, you may be able to name it something else, but just like calling it communism, I think is kind of just shooting ourselves in the foot to a degree if we're trying to like get people to think about things outside of maybe it's because I'm from the South and I definitely was surrounded by a lot of anti-communist kind of rhetoric and shit growing up.
I mean, it's hard to say because I mean, this was the case about 20 years ago for the word socialism to a large extent as well.
Right. Yeah. I feel like there's some progress there for sure.
So it's difficult to know like what's on the others. If you push for something, what's on the other side of that, really, even just rhetorically, like if I get people invested in a certain idea, what's the byproduct of that? You see this a lot with anti-Zionist rhetoric right now. Like I'm somebody who's, as long as I've been aware of the issue, I've been at least to one degree or another pro-Palestinian. I've been really outraged by the treatment of Palestinian people in Israel and in Palestine.
Did you just say you hate the Jewish people?
Well, that's the thing, right? Because like I certainly don't. In fact, I plan on writing a lot more about anti-Semitism, especially as it concerns the critical drinker, for reasons that may become apparent to people who watch those videos.
Boy,
it's interesting because the way that works, right, is that a lot of people sort of like think about maybe like where we were culturally about 10 years ago. A lot of people were not trained on like the far right dog whistles to the degree that some of them are right now. Like, I'm sure you can even think of, words and phrases that you hear now where it sets off an alarm bell, but at one point in your life, it might not have meant anything. There's stuff like that that's happening right now around the rhetoric unfolding about Israel and Palestine. And it is difficult. When I think about socialism and communism, from my understanding and from everything that I've encountered, the way that these terms have been the most useful, especially for engaging with Marx, is I kind of just talked a little bit about what I mean by communism, but for socialism, my understanding of socialism is just a certain specific type of system that will emerge out of a internal conflict in capitalism, in liberal capitalist society.
Almost like an organic response to.
Yeah, kind of. I mean, Marx is not totally fatalistic or deterministic with how he talks about history, but he does talk about it as emerging from circumstances that are determinative of social movements. And what's fascinating about that is that when you really start to internalize it, it becomes very clear that the reason why we can't describe the ideal world that solves all these problems is because we don't live in it. we know what we're able to know and understand, what we're able to see and grasp and infer. But knowledge is, I was talking about this actually in a Discord conversation recently with some people. Let me see if I can pull up the message that I sent, because
it's kind of
this
like
is
the known unknown, like, right? Like it's we can't understand what we don't have the what the conditions don't exist for us to even perceive it, to fully understand it, right? Or so therefore describing it is pretty impossible.
Yeah, if you really want another mind freak about this, it's free to watch on YouTube. There's a debate, and it's subtitled because half of it's in French. But it's a debate between Michel Foucault and Noam Chomsky, and they bring up a lot of left-wing ideas in that. I totally recommend that to people. I've shown my stream that video before, or at least part of that debate, because it is a fascinating discourse in our ability to understand what our ideas even mean and where they're going to lead us and where they come from. Foucault has a big contention with Chomsky because Chomsky is very focused on the fulfillment of justice. And Foucault says, you got to be careful because it's not apparent to me that justice is an idea that's compatible with a classless society. So if, as he proposes hypothetically, justice is an idea that's grown out of how we understand society as being mediated by these government systems. We literally call them the justice system. Our understanding of justice, frequently when people even describe a society without police or prisons, they do this thing, they do this little trick, and once you notice it, you won't be able to unsee it, where they kind of start imagining that the function of those systems will just be fulfilled by other actors in other ways, which kind of gives the game away that the problem that we have is also like epistemological, where our ability to know is being curtailed. Like there's a huge problem in left-wing movements based on that alone. And I'm not really doing the Foucault's argument a great service here, but
well, I mean, you're kind of scratching the surface of why these things can be so difficult to to get on the same page about, even in conversation or whatever. So I think that's pretty relevant.
Yeah. I just understand that, like, for anybody in the audience, when you know something, knowing something in and of itself curtails your ability to know other things. Language shapes your ability to engage with language. It's like self-propagating like that. If you've ever seen the movie, I showed my stream this also. If you've ever seen the movie Pontypool, also free to watch on YouTube. Check that out. It's a horror movie, zombie apocalypse, but the virus is in words, so you hear it, and the word like sticks in your brain, and you become like a zombie. So it's a very different kind of film, very fascinating, and I think about that film a lot, and about knowledge and about how we come to engage with this stuff. I don't want to get too bogged down in that, but Nietzsche has a quote. He says, "For a temple to be erected, a temple must be destroyed," and I think about that a lot when I think about what it really means to like even understand a concept, right? Like an assertion is also a denial, right? Just logically speaking. So when we get into these conversations about like, how does a future society handle this problem or that problem? Well, like, our understanding of what constitutes those issues and whether they are to be mediated. I mean, sometimes people will say stuff like, you've probably heard this one, like, well, if there's no cops, good luck if a murderer breaks into your house, as if the way that works is somebody kicks in the door to your house and the cops teleport into your house and take the bullet for you. Not how it works, I fear.
Yeah, it's.
But you see what I'm saying? Like, our ideas about how systems work are informed by the justifications of those same systems as they assert themselves. It's a little tantalizing, the
decay
things
and
that are difficult for us to understand. Yeah.
Yeah, because I mean, like one of the first kind of times that I started bumping up against this stuff was during 2020, during the summer. You had the police were doing their riots, and then you had BLM and whatnot protesting, demonstrating. Despite the police doing their riots all the time, and like I kept seeing lefties online just like abolish the police and and it's like I get the sentiment and I get the idea there, but it's like if you're trying to essentially radicalize kind of more liberal type folks, and you're trying to get them to see these problems are inherent to this system, and that the system needs to kind of just be reworked, and that typically begins with tearing that shit down. Like then coming at them with such an aggressive but ultimately not informative or educational kind of hashtag like that, and then I would see them try to, like, it'd be like I'd see some lefty on Twitter or wherever abolish the police, and then somebody say, well, okay, but what are you going to do instead? And they'd be like, fuck you, liberal, you know what I mean? Like they would just resort right to that. Fuck you, shit libs, and it's like, whoa, hold on, man. Maybe that person might have actually been open to hearing what you're fucking saying if you just and that became frustrating to me. And so I started trying to ask people about that, and like, what is it? How can we bridge that gap and get people to listen to the ideas? And that's what you're describing is kind of what I started running into, was that my impulse was to just like think, oh, these fucking lefties, they haven't even thought this through. And it's like, I don't think that's fair, really. In some cases that they probably had as much as they can, right? And had conversations about it and stuff, but ultimately we're dealing with I guess a bit of a drought of information that we can work from. Yeah, break into my house in a society without private property.
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of funny, isn't it? Because like a question, I guess is the way I would put this, can contain an assumption that precludes the correct answer to what the intended question is. My favorite example of this was for a while when people like Sargon were still doing their I'm a classical liberal kind of a shtick. They had a lot of conversations that they rhetorically focused on what they called race realism. And the defining question of that conversation is race real? Implicit in that is the understanding that the realism implies a kind of eternal inherent quality, and that it can confer other traits. So there's an understanding of race and how it works that's built into, is it real? What is the it is really the question. And a lot of people, when they ask you a question like that, they want an answer that fits into the question. They don't want you to deconstruct the question. It's very dissatisfying. Fortunately, when I was in my philosophy minor, I had professors who just kind of broke me when I was like that. They were just like, look, you really just have to break down what you're even asking. And it is a rewiring of the brain that people, I think, we continually have to subject ourselves to it. And it's not a good answer, and it's not an answer anybody likes. But it's just hard to think about stuff like that. It's just a thing that you have to, it's like, how do I lift this box? Well, you use your muscles, but I don't want to do the work, is kind of the internal tension there, if I could put an analogy on it.
Sure.
We don't want to exert ourselves. We just want to have the question answered such that at the beginning of the question, the box is in point A, and at the end of the question, the box is at point B, which is kind of, in a way, like asking other people to do our mental work for us, but then again, we don't understand, and that's the purpose of asking the question. So it has to be a dialogue. And I think that, there is I'll say this for the political right. They are correct, not in the way they mean it, but descriptively, about left-wingers virtue signaling, because a lot of social behaviors in politics are straightforwardly about telling other people how it is okay to behave around you. You know, when somebody says like, you know, I don't support racism, get off my page if you're being racist, is that virtue signaling? I think yes, but I don't think it's necessarily insincere. You can signal a virtue you really hold, but it has it means the statement serves a social function. You know, you get this a lot with, you know, when right wingers denounce left wing beliefs as woke, it's like they're casting a spell. You know, lightning bolt, lightning bolt, lightning bolt. That's what it is. It's that kind of behavior.
Kind of the same way that like you know, and then they're definitely on the right as well. Like the sovereign citizens think they almost just seem to think that if you invoke the right words, that they will have, you know, some effect, right? Like that's going to do the thing. It's literally like it's a magic spell or something.
And it can within groups that have the same value sets. It's worth bringing up.
Well, I mean, yeah, and that's the thing that, like, I really, you know, you talking about virtue signaling in particular, it's like it's so frustrating because, like, you know, yeah, the flaw in that, I guess the fallacy in them using that is that they somehow know your intentions, right? Like, and it's the same thing that you see with like, in fact, you know, I have to mention the ripoff verse, that channel that does the puppets, right? That they generally make content that I think is pretty good, and stuff. In fact, I have the clip I can show you of exactly what I'm talking about, if you don't mind, and then I'll probably end it there because I'm getting pretty hungry. But like, so let me see. In his recent video with it was about Gary Nerdrotic, a lot of really great moments. That's probably my favorite one so far because he just lays it out. He lays out the grift so fucking well, and exactly, you know, why these guys are just awful shitheads. But then, like, there's a couple of moments whenever he like kind of dips into this talking about it a certain way that here, I'll show you what I mean. Did you see any of those clips at the beginning of this stream?
Yeah, I saw, I think at least one of them. It had the Nerdrotic puppet, I think it was, in it.
Yeah, so I'll show this one, and then so in case anybody missed it, and then I'll show the other one. But
is Gary Pukeseller. I did time for selling meth and breaking and entering. Had a comic shop for a while that I couldn't keep going and blamed the state, even though the person who took the building after me had a perfectly functioning business. So I started a YouTube channel that was pretty straightforward, but very soon I realized I could get money from kids, but instead of selling them drugs, I could do it by calling everything woke, killing their individual thought, and then repeating the same brain rot over and over again, clogging up YouTube's algorithm with hundreds of completely identical videos and staining the pop culture space with my utter dog shit.
Holy shit, what?
You know, like it's entertaining. It's a little irreverent, but it's also just like spot on in sentiment to me. But then, like, there's this
woke stuff. Right, so woke things. All the hip cats on YouTube call everything woke. What's that about then? Like, how does that work? Help me out here, please.
Fantastic. My favorite word. Wokey, wokey, woke. So there's some larger organizations on this planet that over the past, God knows how long, have sporadically used creative outlets such as film, TV, comics, and most recently video games to drop in either subliminal or goddamn obvious messaging to shape people's opinions and therefore culture.
Right.
So this video clip I've labeled the concerning part.
Sure, I see that now. Yes. Subliminal, the accusation of subliminal messaging, a lot of that will lead you down a certain conspiracy rabbit hole.
I mean, he even said these. He doesn't specify, but he says these large organizations. You know, it's like he could be talking about. He could be, you know, and I've. Part of me wants to hope that this guy is saying that and being vague about it intentionally to kind of just throw a bone to the people that might be, you know, Nerdrotic fans. You know what I mean? Like, it's like, okay, here, I'll say some things are woke, sure, because the direction he goes is like that doesn't matter, basically, that they do that essentially, and it's like, and so that's good, but like it's just the fact that he even kind of references it, that, like, how do you know? Show me the intention. It's just like the Sweet Baby Ink thing. You were there. That was my whole premise, my argument to Tony is like, you need to prove to me that this is the goal, and that this is that for one, it's happening, and two, that they're doing it to do some kind of nefarious thing or whatever. And I think that's generally where these guys' claims fail on that point. I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, it's so fascinating because the kind of one of the disputes maybe you remember that I had with what Tony was saying is that like the push against the alleged pressure to make things more diverse or woke or what have you, that is then treated as a corrective. Like we are righting the issue. And I think that assumption in and of itself is based on something that hasn't been evidenced or can't be known. Especially at the level that the things like the Sweet Baby Inc. detected page we're working on, where they would just list games that Sweet Baby Inc. had provided any work on. If they were credited, the game was on the list. And the issue that I have with that is that first of all, there's no specificity. So there's no understanding of what is being done that is wrong and who is responsible specifically. There is a general sentiment that something is amiss, and it is broadly ascribed to a group that exists as a through line. And it's just not a thing that a smart person would believe on purpose, in my view.
I agree, yeah.
Or should try to believe, because when you subject that to any I mean, I was I think minimally skeptical in that call.
You were.
And when you subject a belief like that to a minimal amount of skepticism, right? It's very difficult to even just kind of fill in all of the in-between parts that would be the links that would turn it into a chain, as opposed to just like three pieces of metal that are not connected to each other. Like maybe they kind of look like each other.
Actually, a couple of clips from that as well, including your question that right at the end of him being on there.
Agree with some of the actions that the people of Sweet Baby Inc. have done outside of their game
This was before you were on.
I think going after people, trying to shut down the list, attacking people on social media and everything. I hate that they felt they had to do that, but I don't agree with those actions. However, I think a consultation firm that provides information for companies that may want to make sure the diversity in their games is done properly, if they want to include it, I think is a good service. And that's not talking about like whether or not they go in and rewrite stuff or whatever. I think a consultation firm is a valid service to exist if they are in fact going in and just consulting on the aspects of the game that they're being hired to do the job on. Because I don't agree with like going after and trying to shut down the list. All of those products were found on their website, so you could have literally just copy and pasted that from that website to the Steam.
I mean,
list.
the list speaks for itself anyway, considering the fact that the guy has admitted he didn't play any of the games, and he's just like, he's got these vibes of wokeness from them, and so he put together a list, and it's like, and now you got people like there's legit saying that if there's anything that kind of has a woke vibe to it, then that must be Sweet Baby Inc., even if they're not like, claiming that they worked on the game. So it's just this is the reason that I have a problem with, just like getting on a stream and just saying shit that without any evidence and suggesting or even outright saying that they are doing some nefarious evil thing when there's no evidence of it, because you've got idiots, people that are much dumber than you, Tony, that are like, oh, that means everything woke is this company. These 16 people are fucking influencing the entire game industry now. It just kind of seems irresponsible, to say the least. And then this was this one is what I called this clip Tony loses.
If I hire Eric to paint my house, right? Hey Eric, I need you to paint my house blue. I want you to paint it blue. And so that's the parameters, paint it. And he's out there painting it and listening to music. I go, I didn't hire you to listen to music. You go, well, you can't control what music I listen to. As long as the house gets painted, I've fulfilled the parameters of my job. So if the company goes, hey, I need you to make a new action adventure game set in the 1980s Miami, and we give it to them, that should be it. That should be the end of where they get off and on, right?
But Tony, if Sweet Baby Inc. is being contracted to write, as they often are, per some of the coverage that I've seen of this, if they're being contracted to write supplemental material for the game, then isn't that like the painting your house example that you brought up earlier, where they're being contracted and Sweet Baby Inc. is now allowed to write things for the game?
Yeah.
Uh-oh.
Yeah, they are. And the problem, or I guess the problem, I'm putting quotation marks, maybe you can't hear them, but the problem is that people are saying that Sweet Baby Inc. is putting in woke stuff. I don't agree with all that.
You should respect their vision by your earlier logic.
I do. I don't have a problem with their vision.
But I mean,
again, my whole contention has always been, what are they doing?
And it's like I think it's fair. Can we get you to agree that you can't really justifiably use the word evils or say that they are contributing to some kind of evil plot or anything when you literally don't have a shred of evidence that that's actually happening? Can you acknowledge that?
Did I say evil plot?
In your video, you did say evils. The evils that they're doing, yeah.
To recap, Sweet Baby Inc. recently became the target of a group which claimed the company was forcing studios it worked with to increase diversity within its games, and accused of it of pushing a, quote, woke agenda into the industry. Following a report into the claims by Kotaku, a number of game developers have spoken up to clear up misconceptions about what companies like Sweet Baby Inc. actually do. I'm going to stop you right fucking there, okay? Eurogamer, let me stop you right fucking there, okay? If a company...
I love how, like, just absolutely, cocksure he is in his clip, right? Like, and generally, I think that's a good rule of thumb that I'm going to try and keep that in mind going forward. I don't think I would do this anyway, but like, if I'm not willing to make a claim equally as confident in one location and one platform as I am as another one, then I shouldn't make that claim. You know what I mean? Like, I shouldn't be. I shouldn't be like, oh, look, yeah, you know what? This is this and that, blah, 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 blah. And then if I'm going to get on somebody else's stream and when they challenge me out, I'm like, oh, yeah, did I say that? I don't know if I said that. It's just funny, and that's the problem with Tony, I think, and his kind of content, is that he's not really making content to understand things or to help other people understand things or to, kind of analyze and just come to any kind of useful read on situations. That's not why he does it. He clearly does this stuff to, create outrage content. And yeah, I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, I just got to say, much love to Tony for being a good sport about me coming on impromptu like that. The context for that was for anybody in my audience who isn't aware is that I was in Dane's chat and feeling very strongly about it, but still kind of getting my bearings on who I was listening to talk about what.
It was the doxing thing, right? That got you? Like,
no, he made an analogy about trans issues, and I was in the chat like, Dane, let me on. Dane, let me on.
Yeah, it was because he was trying to say that, like, the doxing, as in, like, he was trying to first. That's another thing that he completely fell on his face about, was like that this journalist was trying to dox people in the Discord or whatever. And it's like, how were they trying to do that? Oh, she was asking their names, and like, okay, that's not doxing, man. That's but like, he's wanting to apply all these insidious motives to everything, and everything seems way more dramatic and evil, as he said, whenever you're just automatically applying those kind of insidious motives to it. But yeah, like right here is where he says the evils part, and then it's over.
Is being accused of nefariously injecting personal politics into their games. They're being accused of all these evils. Probably. I don't know, I say a lot of things.
Okay.
See, I there's a part of me, there's a corner of my heart where I respect the hell out of that response, because it would be one thing if it was a completely disingenuous remark, but like, being willing to let it go, I appreciate. On the other hand, I was firing on all cylinders in that exchange. I was turbo chariot there for a minute.
No, you did excellent. Like, I mean, I feel like I was really proud of everybody. Like, honestly, like after that, I was like, everybody that had something to say, brought their A game. What are you talking about? this is the guy behind actual fandom I want. There's only one guy behind actual fandom. Just the one. And I'm singling you out because you've kind of made an odd comment here.
Yeah.
What is
Hey,
it you'd like?
listen, my I'm not alt-right shirt is engendering a lot of questions that are already answered by the shirt.
Yeah, yeah. Well, no, I mean, you're definitely not all right. Why would you say that if you were? So like, what do you want from me? You want me? Is that what I mean, how do you mean that?
That's very sweet.
I mean, yeah, depending on how we mean it, it's like I'm flattered or concerned. I don't know. Anyway,
I don't know how to interpret that comment either. I'm uncertain what was meant by that.
I'm just morbidly curious at this point, what that means. But oh, cool. Thank you. All right.
I guess as long as
Could've
it's
gone
all
two different ways.
whatever.
Look, I don't, you know, in the sense that like everybody is the brotherhood and sisterhood and envyhood of man, to me, then I love you in that sense too, just like I love everybody else. But in the completely other way, the parasocial, like individualized way, no, I don't at all. So just make that clear. However, Chariot's chat, Chariot's audience, I do love you, all of you individually. You should subscribe to Actual Fandom.
I agree.
Do you think that got him?
Yeah, that exchange was really fascinating because it's something that is just like just a red flag, about the Sweet Baby situation for me personally is when you actually look at at what is being, some of what Tony said in that conversation and some of what he said in that video, at what is being alleged, it's interesting because these companies hire Sweet Baby, right?
Right.
Presumably. Now, this is just me, just thinking like a big business tycoon here. If I hire a company to do some work, and they do something that is the opposite of what I wanted, right? I don't know how I'd litigate that, but I definitely wouldn't keep hiring them, right? So at a certain point, the company will develop presumably a negative reputation, right? People would be like, man, this company just does like the opposite of what we want in our games.
Right.
Alternatively, if I either am okay with the diversity that the company adds, or if I'm telling them to add it, or if I have no opinion and it's just compatible with my vision, but I don't care, then I would do what a lot of the companies that worked with Sweet Baby Inc. seem to have done, which is, go along and get along.
Right. I mean, that's why he had to have that extra part of the narrative that there was an implied shaming of and canceling if they didn't, agree to it in the first place, right? Like there's, because of course, yeah, this is just a capitalist, agreement between two corporate entities to exchange money for service. And but if if that's why you have to have the like, oh, well, they were, they're telling people that you got to blah 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 blah. Like, yeah,
there is for anyone out there who finds that specific objection, that talking point that you just mentioned, at all appealing, there is a grand defeater to this in law, which is you stop working with somebody for other reasons. You can find a reason. If when somebody wants to fire somebody because of their race or their gender or their sexuality, you can find another reason then. So if you
it's like if you've ever dated somebody who turned out to be kind of a psycho or something, and you're just like afraid and like you don't want to tell them that's why you're breaking up with them. Like
it's also they'd be working, if they're being hired to work on a single project, it's on a per project basis. So it's not even really comparable to firing, because there's no job security. When the project's done, it's done, and it's just, oh, we won't bring them on for the next thing. So there's no way for people to say, well, they didn't bring us on because they're woke. Everybody on the political left would be, or because they're anti-woke or whatever. People on the political left would be like, what? What? Nobody would go along with that. I've never seen that happen.
One more is there's 16 people at Sweet Baby Inc., right? Or at least there were at this point. I don't know what's changed since then, but 16 individuals And you're talking about they are strong arming, fucking doing mob tactics on the fucking gaming industry, AAA gaming studios, just huge, enormous, corporate entities. And they're somehow doing that. But it's like, okay, if that's the case, then why wouldn't just a handful of people be controlling the fucking world right now if you can do that? You know what I mean? Like, if that's something that is possible to do, to just to scare people of being like called an isterophobe on Twitter so fucking badly.
Yeah, I say that I've never seen something like that. There was this one time that a woman called Maya Forstater tried to do that to keep her job when she was not renewed to work
That was
somewhere.
pretty crazy, but yeah.
Because she hates the hell out of trans people. And J.K. Rowling described it as her being fired for saying that sex was real. And that kicked off a whole discourse. But I've never seen it work the other way around. Chiefly because, like, what's the basis? It also didn't, by the way, didn't work for Maya Forstater, as far as I'm aware. I don't know if any of that is still to be determined by courts, but I'm reasonably certain that she didn't just immediately get everything back that she wanted just because she was able to accuse people of things. I don't think that's really how it works when it comes to like nonprofits and corporations and things like that. Maybe that's just me though.
And I do apologize. I meant to have this graphic with your channel name up on the whole time. I just forgot to put it up, and I apologize for that.
Thanks. Yeah, I had it as my name, so
I see.
It works.
Okay. Cool. Well, I think I need to go figure out if I need to order some pizza or something. What's going on here tonight? I don't know. But definitely enjoyed talking with you. Honestly, I really, was kind of like, figured that we talked for like an hour and a half was what I was going to shoot for, just because I was kind of tired already. But then as we started talking, I got invigorated. So there you go.
Well, there we go. It was a good talk.
I hope so. Hope it was enjoyable for your folks and everything. Yeah, my folks, if you're not subscribed to Chariot, her channel is always linked in the description of my videos and showcasts and stuff like that. You're one of the chosen at this point that we just like to promote. Yeah. So yeah. And by the way, you're welcome to I think this week we on Wednesday we're not doing a regular showcast that we normally do, but I think DJ might stream. I'll probably stream with him. You're welcome to join in that if you feel like it, and whatever.
Oh yeah, I'll think about it. Maybe I'll message you guys. I got to talk to DJ because we were talking about doing some Pride Month stuff. So
yeah. And I mean, I was going to ask you, trying to talk to you about that stuff too. I'm asking all my gay friends and stuff like, hey, because it's just I don't know, it's fun to do.
Yeah, it could be fun.
Virtue signaling, you know what I mean? You got to do it.
I love it. I love being virtuous, and I love signals.
Good memes. Good memes. Yes. All right. Yeah, guys, you're great. All of you, love you. You know what I mean? On the way out, I did want to play just, a little bit of me shutting down the critical drinker on his Luke Skywalker in The Last Jedi bullshit. And that'll play as we get out of here. And talk to you later. Have a good weekend. Take care of yourselves. Take care of one another.
Yeah, you too.
Take care of your dogs and your cats and all that stuff. Peace.
Peace, everybody.
And truly, what more quintessential example could I possibly give to start things off than Luke Skywalker, who went from one of the most iconic and beloved heroes in all of cinema to a sad, broken, miserable, and forlorn man.
He talks about how Luke Skywalker goes from a badass Jedi in Return of the Jedi to a hermit in The Last Jedi, and ignores his entire character arc in that movie, which ends with him literally doing the most badass thing ever seen by any character in Star Wars ever. He faces down the entire First Order army, and to be even more badass than that, he's openly playing and mocking them. The entire army is literally no threat to Luke. How does that not play into a male power fantasy? Listen, you don't even need to agree with me that Luke was badass, because it's fine if people don't like how he was handled in that movie. However, the drinker completely misconstrues reality. He bashes how Luke is characterized in the beginning of the movie, but then doesn't even mention where Luke ends up, which, whether you like it or not, is objectively not where he started off. Not only that, but if the drinker expected to see Luke win the day with violence, which is typically associated with the male action hero, he must have forgotten how Luke won the day in Return of the Jedi.
Never.
He won when he chose to not kill his father. He won when he threw his lightsaber down. That was the last time we saw Luke Skywalker, was him choosing nonviolence. So the next time we see Luke Skywalker, when he once again throws his lightsaber, he is simply maintaining his growth that we saw established in the original trilogy. He also wins using nonviolence in The Last Jedi. He projected his consciousness and his likeness, which went unnoticed by Kylo Ren, across the motherfucking galaxy, giving the Resistance a chance to escape, and in so doing, mocked Kylo Ren while inspiring the new rebellion. He did all that without betraying that character progression from the original trilogy.
It's like poetry, so if they rhyme, every stanza kind of rhymes with the last one.
I'm built like a goddamn brick.